Burger King.
Thanks for having me.
Hello. Welcome. Welcome to class. I'll give you all a moment to settle in. Find your seats. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. I, as always, am Professor Slimesworth. I'll be teaching you today for this lecture. How's the volume? This distance learning is new for me.
Burger King.
I see that I've put my webcam
She's
above.
all dressed up.
Volume is good. That's new. Bow tie is better. Well, it's a very loud bow tie. Yeah, so here's the plan for tonight. Tonight we're going to be doing things a little differently. I'm going to watch some Prager U videos, make fun of them for the first little bit. Then after that, we'll hang out and do the typical thing we usually do, where I just talk at you, just to see how that goes. I'm making some changes around here. Forgot to wear pants to class tonight. There's no dress code here. It's fine. So the reason that I wanted to make fun of Prager U today is because I'm responding to a Prager U video tomorrow. And I was looking through their oeuvre, and it's just I could not get to all of them. There's just so many videos, and they're all so bad. Like, and not in a way that requires a lot of thought to debunk. So that's, I thought that would be a fun, easy thing to do. High quality bow tie. It's actually a fake one, which is annoying to me now because for my wedding, I did learn to tie a real bow tie. I can actually do that. Michael Wilson, everyone hates me. Try selling your house. That might make them like you. That's right, I was reading the chat before I started streaming.
Burger King.
I'm just getting some stuff set up here in the background. Someone asked the question about Patreon, and I feel like that's important. It could be like, hey, you stole my money. I can't find it now. Something about my computer? Something about my computer. Don't spoil. With the new computer and such, is it easier to respond on Patreon to messages? Nope. Responding to messages has never been my strong suit. I will be 100% honest with you. And a lot of that is because sometimes people just send me a lot of messages and it's just like, oh, come on. Like, the Patreon messages obviously get top priority because they're giving me that sweet, sweet cashish. Some of that the dank nugs of cash that I crave. But I just I don't make a habit of answering every message I get. And I'm sorry, that sounds really rude. You would understand if you saw how many messages I do get. Like everywhere. And if I like make it, if it's like, oh, this is the platform where I will answer messages, then it's just, oh, that's the one that gets flooded. I try really hard to like keep a distance between myself and the audience sometimes. Anyway, I'm just digging deeper. I'm digging myself into deeper and deeper trouble. You know what? We always make it a... When can we expect the return of the eyeball zone, whatever that is? I don't know what you're referring to.
I got the money.
And just be patient, because maybe something is going on. You know? Now we got some solid choices.
I got the money.
Is the mic too far to the left channel?
Professor Slime, I've got an important question. Mystery Inc. Vincent Van Gogh or 13 Ghosts? Vincent Van Gogh.
What about Vincent Van Gogh? I didn't catch that. No, not in this window. Hold on. You'd be surprised how many windows you have to have open when you're streaming. This is a little peek behind the curtain at how many windows I have open. We will be dunking on Prager University. That's why I'm doing this whole outfit. It's that's my thing. Mystery Inc. Vincent Van Gogh or 13 Ghosts? Vincent Van Gogh, 13 Ghosts, obviously, because he's played by Vincent Price. The voice is off center because my microphone is off center. There, you jackals. Is that better? I don't know why I'm so mad tonight. I'm really entitled tonight.
Burger King.
Pride
I got
LGBT.
the money.
Okay.
Burger King.
So,
Subbaby.
I got the money.
we're gonna... And then we go over to this page. Welcome to Prager University. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, Prager University is a fake university on the internet run by petro-billionaires. Funded by petro-billionaires, run by Dennis Prager, who I don't know what he does, except that he's like exactly when you picture a conservative in your mind's eye, he is what you picture. And I'm wearing a bow tie and I'm saying that. That should tell you how conservative this fool looks. Let's get these alert boxes so they don't overlap. There we go. All right. So we got a lot of options, and I'm going to kind of leave it up to chat based on like what I'm seeing. People responding to. We can decide what we want to watch, right? Let's make this a little smaller. That's not that. What the heck?
Burger King.
You don't need to see what I have favorited. Oh my goodness. I hate OBS sometimes. Let me tell you. What a professional stream I'm putting off today.
I got the money.
And okay, this is good enough. Vibios. We got so many options. And right away, I'm not going to watch anything that's over like half an hour long, just because you know how I get with these videos. I tend to like pause them a lot, and I would be here all night. So we got essential lessons in human nature. I'm not watching the Candace Owens show under any circumstances, not even as a bit. Why are utilities so expensive? I wonder why the Koch brothers think utilities are so expensive. I bet they have some enlightened opinions on that. Fireside chat about trauma queens. There's so many. Yale students want to repeal the Constitution? Also, I tweeted about this the other day. All of their videos are marked fundraiser. This is baffling to me, because they're not. Why I left the left? That's an old one, though. Erasing gender. I feel like we're gonna require some content warnings on that one. That's gonna upset a lot of people. The fundraiser is to fight YouTube censorship. Can we taste some of your Coke Zero? Yeah, go for it.
Snazzy Mr. Slime.
What's everybody feeling? Anybody see anything they like?
I got the money.
How to fix healthcare? I kind of like this one. Is it masculine for a man to wear a dress? Because it's like, I don't think the people who think men should be allowed to wear dresses, which is everyone who's even slightly cool, don't think so because it's a masculine thing to do. Is capitalism evil? I mean, that one does sound pretty good. Utilities. I'm seeing a couple people say utilities, how the left sees the world.
I got the money.
All right, let's start with utilities. It's a short video, and we'll get our beaks wet with this one.
I got the money.
Why does your electricity bill keep going up when the cost of producing electricity keeps going down? Since 2010, the price of natural gas has fallen 43%, and coal prices have dropped 11%. And yet the price for electricity for residential users in the U.S. has risen 13% over that time. Why?
Why?
Because almost all the money Americans should have saved, and we're talking serious money, went to subsidize renewable energy.
Of course. The problem is these billions of dollars the government is spending on renewable energy. That's the problem. If you look at the world right now, the big problem is that the government is spending way too much money on renewable energy. And it has nothing to do with the fact that their money comes from oil billionaires. That's just the way that it is. If you look at the numbers in an unbiased way, that's what you'll find.
It turns out, are more expensive than advertised. Perhaps if renewable energy was what made our air cleaner, or what caused the dramatic reductions in CO2 over the last decade, you could say it was worth it.
I'm sorry, but no one advocates for green energy on the basis that it makes air cleaner. That's not the point. It's that if we don't use that, we end up using something that makes the air dirtier. So in a roundabout sense, you could say it makes the air cleaner. It's cleaner than the alternative, surely.
But our air was already becoming dramatically cleaner long before wind and solar were identified as environmentally critical.
But cleaner Cleaner than what? Because cleaner than they would be without coal power and gas power and oil? No. Cleaner than they were before because, like, huge government regulations made them have to change emission standards, and people like you kicked up a shit about it.
Emissions of harmful pollutants have decreased 77% in the U.S. since 1970. And that had nothing to do with wind and solar. It was almost entirely due to the switch from coal to natural gas. So if we're getting no cost savings from wind and solar and minimal benefits in terms of cleaner air...
I'm sorry. You see the trick he pulled there, right? He's saying that we're not getting cleaner air from it because it doesn't clean the air. But, like, it also doesn't pollute the air. As opposed to the alternative. If your options are something which doesn't clean the air but also doesn't cause the pollution in the first place, or something that does, obviously the thing that doesn't cause the pollution is the thing to go with.
Reductions in CO2, why are we so obsessed with it? The question becomes even sharper if we take a close look at your electricity bill. It consists of three main parts. Part 1, generation cost. Part 2, transmission cost. Part 3...
How did this guy find my electricity bill? How is he able to look at my electricity bill? That's a violation of my privacy. I'm really loud compared to the video. I can fix that.
Taxes and fees. Part 1, generation cost. The cost of generating and reliably maintaining electricity comprises about 50% of your power bill. In order to keep the lights on, the demand for and supply of electricity must be satisfied at all times. Fossil-fueled electricity is inexpensive, and the fuel can be stored or sourced on-site. The electricity is there when you need it.
Gee, that sounds amazing. Is there any kind of drawback that maybe makes that not an ideal solution? Is there maybe something about it that's dangerous or causing the planet to die?
In contrast, wind and solar generate electricity based on the mood of Mother Nature. This is known as the intermittency problem.
And Mother Nature's in a really bad mood because she's being murdered.
And here's what it means in practical terms. For every wind and solar farm you build, you need a fossil fuel facility nearby to supply electricity on demand. This is what filmmaker Michael Moore and his team found out, much to their shock, when researching green energy for their documentary, Planet of the Humans. All that wasted money is reflected in your electricity bill.
Okay, but like, let's start on the premise that is true, and I suspect there's some truth to what he's saying, but if you have to use a fossil fuel plant to run a solar power plant, you're still getting the electricity from the solar power plant that cuts out an equivalent amount of energy from the fossil fuel plant, right? So you're still saving fossil fuel emissions. It's still better to do it that way.
Part 2, transmission cost. The cost to transmit electricity is determined by the distance between the power plant and your home or business. This is one of the reasons fossil fuel and nuclear plants are ideally suited to power our large, dense cities and industries. They require little land space and can be situated near or within population centers, so they need relatively few transmission lines. But wind and solar resources require large tracts of land and are therefore usually placed in remote locations. That remoteness requires expensive new infrastructure. Texas, for example, has already spent over $7 billion in new transmission lines to bring distant wind power to cities in the east and south.
Okay, so, number one, if only there was some way to store electricity. Number two, you can just put solar panels on the roofs of buildings. Like, people do that all the time. The idea that like a solar panel requires this huge tract of land is just not true anymore.
And billions more will be required. Texans are already seeing those costs in their energy bills. But Texas is not unique. It's happening everywhere. Part 3, taxes and fees. Most taxes are plainly stated on your power bill. State taxes, city and county taxes, plus a bewildering assortment of fees. Those are bad enough.
Oh, this is great. This is great. Look at the fees. Look at the fees. They're just nonsense. This one's swearing. The fees are swearing at you. The fees for your power bill that are part of the taxes, but not listed as part of the taxes. What does he mean that like taxes on things are usually listed clearly?
I got the money.
It just says like, here's how much you got to pay. I don't know or care why. Like, you just got to pay it.
But what you won't see on your electricity bill are the federal and in many places state taxes that you pay to subsidize wind.
Wait a minute. State, city, county.
Those are bad enough. But what you won't see on your electricity bill are the federal and in many places state taxes.
Well, the federal
that you
ones
pay
weren't
to
there.
subsidize wind and solar generation. Federal subsidies alone for the wind and solar industries totaled more than $70 billion from 2010 to 2019. Most state governments.
Boy, I wonder how much incentives were for oil and gas industries. I wonder if they got any subsidies. Because if not, one of the things I might do in this section, because I'm thinking like a video maker here now, right? And I'm thinking if I wanted to make the argument that oil and gas is better because you don't got to do the subsidies, I might throw that little fact in if there's no subsidies for oil and gas. I might say, they didn't get any subsidies, so what's the deal? But he didn't say that. Pretty strange, right? Kind of makes you think maybe they got an equivalent amount of subsidies. And maybe natural power sources like solar and wind probably should get more subsidies because we need to develop the tech to fix the gap that you're talking about in your fucking video. The whole point of this video is the technology is just not there yet. Okay, well that costs money to develop and we need to spend that money because if we don't, then the planet is fucked.
Kick in their own incentives. The subsidies for wind and solar are in a class by themselves and have been for decades. We are not incentivizing new technology, but are artificially supporting an industry. Take away the subsidies, and very likely that industry does not exist.
That's true for a lot of industries, though. Like, if you take away subsidies for meat production, that industry also does not exist because it's really expensive.
It all up. The generation cost, the transmission cost, the taxes and fees. You're paying a lot more than you should. Maybe you can afford it, but many can't. An electricity bill is a regressive expense, meaning it takes up a lot bigger chunk of the budget of a lower middle class family than it does an upper middle class one.
Oh, fuck right off, Prager University. Fuck right off. Because A, rich people are going to use more electricity, and B, this doesn't seem to matter to you when you're arguing for a flat tax system, does it? But what's an electricity bill and the money goes to your competition instead of to the people that are funding your videos, suddenly regressive fees and taxes, that's a problem then.
Many poor families devote more than 10% of their income after food, rent, and transportation to electricity, while those further up the income
10% of their income after food and rent. So, like, not 10% of their income then. Like, a considerably smaller portion of their income.
Scale spend only a few percent. A third of American households report having difficulty paying their electricity bills, and 7 million families face the choice between putting food on the table or keeping their home warm during the cold winter months.
Well, you've convinced me, Prager U. Something should be done to lift people out of poverty.
So maybe we should be thinking more about them and less about expensive, inefficient wind and solar energy. Yes, the wind and the sun are free, but wind and solar power are anything but. I'm Charles McConnell.
No, it's free. It's still free.
Assistant Secretary of Energy in the Obama administration.
Ooh. Oh, that's like a punch in the gut right there. This guy was the former Assistant Secretary of Energy in the Obama administration? Jesus! Like, no wonder the world is the way that it is.
Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep Prager U videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
You can't charge for videos on YouTube. You can't do that. They would always be free. So. You can? Then why have I been giving my shit away for free? Hoof. Doof. I knew this was the right choice. I knew that they would never let me down. It's just... It's such a naked grift. It's so like... Everything they're saying is so clearly dishonest. It just... Wow. 2.86 million subs. Yep. Although it's unclear, like, there are farms you can go to, like online subscriber farms, to just buy subscribers. So it's unclear how many of those are genuine. And also, like, they buy a lot of ads on YouTube. Like, a lot. Like, they put ads on my videos sometimes.
I got the money.
What are my pronouns? What pronouns you got? I'm not picky. I mean, I do think we should follow it up with what is Big Green. And I have a feeling they're not talking about the 1996 children's movie about a plucky soccer team.
You've heard a lot about big oil, big pharma, big tech, and all the other big bad players out there.
I've heard a lot about
I want to
them.
talk to you about the biggest, baddest one of them all.
Bigger! Bigger than big tech. Did he say big oil? I have to see if he said that, if he's now going to claim that Big Green is bigger than big oil.
You've heard a lot about big oil, big pharma.
It's the
big
first
tech,
one!
and all the other big bad players out there. I want to talk to you about the biggest, baddest one of them all. This Goliath doesn't deal in billions, it deals in trillions. I'm talking about Big Green. Yes, the environmental movement. It's the rich...
The environmental movement is a bigger moneyed interest than big oil, than big tech. Just drink it in. Drink it in.
richest, most powerful big in the world right now. Nothing
It's the most powerful big!
else even comes close. Until we see it for what it is and rein it in, it's going to get even bigger. And as is usually the case, bigger is not always better.
Just the elegance of that sentence. And as is usually the case, bigger is not always better. It's such a fucked up sentence. It should be, as is usually the case, bigger is not better, or bigger is not always better. Lose the first clause.
You see, Big Green wants to take over your life. It has to.
Fine. Let them. They do a better job with it than I'm doing with it.
This makes perfect sense. Big Green, after all, intends to save the planet from oblivion. Your freedom would seem to be a small price to pay. To accomplish its mission, Big Green needs two things.
I mean, I don't believe that Big Green is trying to take our freedom. But, yeah, dog, if the world dies, I'm also not free. Like, if you're setting up the hypothetical that they're taking away your freedom in order to save the planet, then, like, that's still better because if the planet is saved at some point, maybe I could get my freedom back later. Once again, I don't accept that premise. Obviously, the green movement, big green, is not taking away my freedom, but it would be better to lose the freedom and save the earth than die. Everyone dies. Than oblivion, in your words.
Money and power. It already has a lot of both, but it's hungry for much more. Who do we mean when we say Big Green? We mean the major organizations that set the agenda for the movement. This would.
What do we mean when we say this movement? We mean the people who set the agenda for this movement.
Would include, among dozens, Greenpeace, 350.org, Nature Conservancy, Sierra Club, World Wildlife Fund, and of course, the politicians, bureaucrats, corporations, and media outlets who support.
The media outlets, of course. And all of those combined, I bet, have way more money than, say, Shell or Exxon or Koch Industries.
And promote their agenda. Before we get any deeper into this, let's stipulate a few things. The climate is changing. It appears, though we can't be sure, to be slowly warming.
We got to throw that in. We can't be sure. I mean, it's gotten warmer, but we don't know. Maybe tomorrow will get cold again.
If it continues to warm, it could cause serious environmental problems sometime in the distant future.
Sometime in the distant future.
I got the money.
Jesus.
Industrialization probably plays a role in this warming process. Reasonable people should be able to agree on this. Democrat leader Nancy Pelosi and Republican leader Newt Gingrich actually once sat down together and said as much in a public service ad they made in the 1990s. But Big Green has no interest in being reasonable. Reasonable doesn't get you money.
I'm dizzy with the way the words are flying at me. I don't know how people deal with it.
Reasonable doesn't get you power. So let's talk about the money. Greenpeace, Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, and Sierra Club all have financial assets in the $100 to $300 million range. Name a Fortune.
Okay, so let's assume they all had $300 million. That means together the maximum they could have is $1.2 billion, right? So show me an oil and gas company that has a net worth of less than $1.2 billion. Find one on Earth.
500 company, and chances are they're writing big checks to Big Green. Banking giant Citigroup, for example, has committed $100 billion to combat climate change. But the real money is at the government level. In 2009, the Obama administration directed more than $110 billion
we just heard from his energy secretary. I don't think we have to worry about the Obama administration spending too much money on green energy, if I'm being honest with you.
Spent on renewable energy investments under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act alone. What the taxpayer got for this investment, other than long-forgotten $500 million boondoggles like Solyndra, is hard to say. According to the best...
What is Solyndra? Because he drops that like his audience would be like, oh! Fucking got him! It's apparently some kind of boondoggle. I don't know anything more about it.
Economic models, the Paris Climate Accord will cost the world $1 to $2 trillion every year. Total cost for the Green New Deal, $52 trillion, minimum. But money is only a means to an end.
It's a quick question. How much money is there on Earth? Like, how much is all of money? Because that's how much we would lose if we don't do something about climate change. So there's really no amount of money that's too much. Also, money is made up. So just maybe the priority here should be the only planet that we can live on, is a thought that I'm having watching this video from Prager University.
The end is power. The power to transform society into what they think it should be. That's what this is really about. Here's how Shoykat Chakrabarty, the architect of the Green New Deal, described it to the Washington Post. It wasn't originally a climate thing at all. We really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing.
Okay.
Maybe you like all this. That's fine. But don't pretend it's about protecting the environment.
Why not?
Chakrabarty was being honest. You should
Okay, but like, just because it was designed to change the economy, because you'll notice that in this little snippet that he read, he said it didn't start that way. Presumably, the next sentence would be, but then we realized we had to do this. You know,
should be too. It's about transferring more and more power to the government at every level, federal, state, local. And the way to get the power is to gin up scary scenarios. The planet is burning. The seas are rising. We're all going to be dead soon unless we listen to those masters of disaster, Al Gore, Bill McKibben, and Greta Thunberg.
Okay. Get the fuck over Al Gore. Okay? Al Gore has not been relevant in 20 fucking years. Like, forget about Al Gore. Nobody's talking about Al Gore. Al Gore is not the voice of the climate movement. I don't understand. Like, the conservative hive mind, they just latch on to stuff and they never let it go. It's wild. Greta Thunberg also, like, you know, she's a very young person. So, like, if she says something out of turn or says something, like she says something that the data doesn't quite back up, it's like, okay, but check on the gist of it, though. Like, the sea level is rising. We are approaching a feedback loop, if we're not there already, by the way, where we could create so much methane in the atmosphere that was trapped in like polar ice caps that creates this like feedback loop that just ends all life on the planet. And it's like, yeah, it sounds scary. It's scary sounding because it's the scariest imaginable scenario for anyone that lives on the earth.
And what have all their horror stories led to? A generation of young people who have nightmares about a planet burning up around them. Poor people who pay higher energy.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, the reason those people are having nightmares about the planet burning up isn't because of the people causing it, it's the people talking about it. If everybody just ignored it and let it keep happening, everyone would be super calm.
Bills, and they need to because of massive subsidies for wind and solar power. Millions of birds, including endangered ones, dying, sliced to pieces by wind turbines. Yet in the midst of all the planet is burning,
The wind is slicing up the bird. Like I'm picturing a chicken flying in. Well, I guess chickens don't fly, but I'm picturing a chicken in the windmill just getting cut evenly in half.
fear-mongering, the world is cleaner, healthier, and richer than it has ever been.
Citation
Deaths
needed.
from natural disasters are at all-time lows.
Citation
Here's
needed.
why. Human beings adapt when faced with climate problems. We're really good at it. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Sea levels rising, build taller and better seawalls.
Around all land? Just all you gotta do, just put a little ledge around everywhere, and then you're good. How hard could that be? It certainly wouldn't cost as much as the couple billion you were complaining about earlier.
That's what the Netherlands did. A good chunk of the country, including its international airport, is below sea level. Need more water? Spread the...
Burger King.
Poor burb Sean FSAD.
That's something being below sea level does not mean necessarily that they built a retaining wall to keep the sea out. Like, it could be a valley, you know?
Gospel of drip irrigation and desalinization. Israel has more water than it needs, and it's in the middle of a desert.
Well, that could be partially because they're withholding it from some other people.
Clean energy, build more nuclear power plants. Sweden gets half of its energy from nuclear. None of these simple, practical solutions makes much of an impact on Big Green.
Simple, practical solutions like building a wall around every continent. How hard could it be? It's only going up a couple feet. It's only got to be a little. People might trip over it. That's one danger. But you just got to build a wall around all of the continents. And you're good. For that matter, we could make the continents taller. And then you're good. It's fine.
You don't raise money off of common sense. And you don't get political power telling people how good things are. And you certainly don't become famous by being calm. Big Green is not poor, not honest, and certainly not powerless. It's time we all plug into that truth.
Are you poor and powerless, bud? Who are you? Who is this? Ryan O'Handley, a.k.a. DC Drano. Who is this guy?
I'm Rogan O'Handley, a.k.a. DC Drano for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep...
All right. I gotta know. Okay. Does not have a Wikipedia article. That's fine. Well, he's anti-white supremacy. That I like. I'll give him that. He's a lawyer, so presumably not poor, not powerless. Politics for patriots, us. Politics for patriots, us. Politics for patriots, US? Anyway, that seems to conflict with the anti-white supremacy messaging. Look at this. Look at this. Sources telling me AOC has recently been diagnosed with diabetes. Hold on one second, actually. Let me just... Diabetes? Where does he come up with this stuff? Can you name one country that taxes their people and sends money to America? What? How come we're sending money to all these poor countries and none of them are sending money back? The only way this transaction makes sense is if we send them some of our money and then they send us some of their money. Oh. Like, I don't know if this is his official account. He doesn't seem to be verified, but the idea of someone on Instagram just posting Instagram posts of their tweets is so incredible. If you want to open our borders before opening our small businesses, you might be a globalist. Nancy Pelosi has been in office for longer than I've been alive. Something is wrong with American democracy when an aged oligarchy controls our republic. We need term limits, and we need them now. Doesn't want an aged oligarchy, says the man who worked for Dennis Prager. Oh, and this anti-white supremacy guy is tweeting, and I can never pronounce this guy's name, Jack Proboscis, Jack Puso Bean, Jack Pogo Stick. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Anti-white supremacy, and I say retweeting, Instagramming a tweet by. Okay, that's enough of that. Ugh. What have we learned? I've learned a lot from that one. Did you know Jack Probiotic? That's a good one. That one's going in the dome for later. I didn't know that Greenpeace had more money than Exxon. That's wild. That's a true thing that they implied. And they're just going around not being reasonable, you know, and that's the problem. There's no money in being reasonable.
Burger King.
Okay. What else we got? The truth about Antifa. Price transparency. How to fix healthcare.
Burger King.
Lying to kids about stereotypes.
Burger King.
You can't be free without this. And there's a picture of a lady, and she's like got a Star of David across and the Islamic Star and Moon. I don't know what that's called, by the way. I don't know if there's a name for that symbol. Maybe one of you can tell me. But she's like, I don't know which of the three major religions I'm gonna pick. Okay, I hate to do this so early, but I actually have to pee so bad.
Stink, Matt, don't you know?
I'll be
Freedom costs money, so people without money don't love freedom.
right
Checkmate
back.
Communist.
Hello. I'm seeing some people saying the one of why Jews love Christmas. That's a very funny concept. But also, I don't know if I would be qualified to really respond to that as not among the chosen. The pro-slavery one, I think they took down. Why? There's one here about defining liberty. Let me in the call, I'll talk about it for you. There's no call. This isn't a call. They say Scandinavia, but they mean Vuvuzuela.
I got the money.
Oh, you're not seeing this. Sorry. My bad. I'm so sorry. They say Scandinavia, but they mean Vuvuzuela. Does COVID dominate your life? Where do you want to live? Red state or blue state? Where do you think all of these conservative guys want to live? What it's you want to how to steal an election, mail-in ballots. Is this the one you wish? A lot of people say in this one. Venezuela, Venezuela. I want to do the Columbus one because I feel like there's Bet Empanada already, I think, closed the book on Columbus Apologia. Never apologize to the mob. I love America too much to stay silent. But it's the best thing you could do for America. Society can't fix your problems. All right, I kind of have to know why they love America so much they can't stay silent.
When I got out of bed the morning of May 31st, 2020, after a sleepless night, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what or what I would say. I saw the protests and the riots. I'd heard all the accusations about racism, racial injustice, and police brutality. I was horrified by what happened to Mr. George Floyd, but I was also horrified about what was happening to my adopted country, my beloved America.
What happened to it?
And I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't keep...
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like America has survived.
...it inside. So I went to one of these protests and I did the most American thing I could think of. I told...
Ate a big cheeseburger and told everybody there to speak English. Even if they were speaking English, but they just had a different accent than you. That's the most American thing you can do. Is that what you did?
The protest is exactly what I thought. I admit it. I wasn't very diplomatic. Maybe that's why my remarks went viral. You can find them easily on YouTube. Many people admired me for what I said. Many hated me. I don't care either way. I didn't do this for me. I did it for America, the greatest country in the world.
I feel like this woman, she's given this stare like she's trying to kill the cameraman with her eyes.
Talking about. I was born in Cameroon, a country in West Africa. My family lived day to day, simply trying to survive. When I hear people talk about corruption and civil rights abuses here in the US, I shake my head. They never lived in Cameroon.
So, and I don't want to make light of whatever it is that she faced in Cameroon, but your argument here is essentially that because it's not as bad as this other country, it is therefore the best country in the world? Like, first of all, in order to know that America is not corrupt, you'd have to at least live in half of the countries, right? So that you'd know like the baseline corruption. Something can be not as corrupt as something else and still corrupt.
Or anywhere within 1,000 miles of Cameroon. That's for sure. I came to the United States for what I could never have in my native land. Freedom and happiness. The opportunity to get a good education, to earn a good living, to build a good life for myself. And that's exactly what I've done. That's what America has allowed me to do. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Since coming to the United States, I have trained in nursing and worked as a visiting nurse assistant. Recently, I received my master's in healthcare administration, and I am now working as a healthcare executive.
You know, there are nurses in other countries.
My career ambition is to close the gap in healthcare outcomes and design new and better strategies to ensure that underserved populations get the healthcare services they need.
Oh, you know what's weird actually is in a lot of countries, one of the things they do that doesn't happen in America is one of the things they do. For example, Canada is the closest country to the United States. Mexico as well, but is what we do, and this is the thing that actually a lot of countries that have even a little bit of money do, is we give healthcare to everyone. So first step one, if you wanted to get healthcare to underserved populations, is you should stop charging for it, because one thing that underserved populations tend to have in common is that they tend to have less money. And so it's harder for them to get healthcare if they have to give money because they don't have it. That's my tip. One of the reasons I would say actually that America is not the best country in the world.
I also serve as a reservist in the United States Air Force. And yes, I look forward to getting married and starting a family. My life is grounded in a simple truth.
Who's going to ask that?
Thank you for the stream on the night my D&D game got canceled.
Your D&D game got canceled? What did they do?
Place to live for anyone of any race than America. And everybody outside of America knows it. That's why they line up, like I did, at U.S. embassies around the world, hoping for a chance to come here to live and work. This is truly the line of opportunity. So, don't go around trashing it. I don't care where you come from, or what your complaint is, or what your skin color is. I'm not having it. And that brings me back to May 31st, at that park in Washington, D.C. Mr. Floyd should not have died as he did. But make no mistakes, Black Lives Matter and the...
Mr. Floyd should not have died the way that he did. But...
allies are using George Floyd's death to split Americans apart at the very moment we should be coming together.
Yeah, at the very moment we should be coming together, because now is the time to come together. Before it wasn't good to come together. Now it is. And Black Lives Matter, let me tell you, they're splitting people apart because they're sowing division between people that care about whether or not police murder innocent black people and people that don't. And those two groups should be natural allies. And they were until these protesters came along and started complaining, oh no, people are getting murdered. Try living in a different country sometime, buddy.
They're striking at the heart of this country, twisting the knife of white guilt with one hand and black resentment with the other. These protests are not about empowering black people. They are about...
they're about keeping black people from being murdered. That's not really empowering so much as it's like protecting? Protecting might be a better word.
Empowering black people. Because when the fire stops burning, all that remains is hopelessness, anger, and shame. That's not empowerment. That's oppression. Look at the innocent victims, the business owners, many of them black, who've lost their lives' work to looting and arson. What are they supposed to do now? Who cleans up the graffiti and the shattered glass? Who rebuilds?
Certainly not the police. That would be a valuable community service.
Who, after seeing the dreams go up in smoke, even wants to? Every week in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., black criminals kill black men, women, and children.
Whoa! That escalated quickly. Whoa! Yeah. Whoa. A check, please.
Children. Do you know the name of a single one of them? Why don't their lives matter? Where are the protests for them? Why do we only get angry when a white police officer kills a black man?
Well, because you can't have a protest against murder, right? The government doesn't control if murder happens, but they do control what the police do. So it makes sense to protest that. It wouldn't make sense to just protest that murders in general happen. You could protest against the economic conditions that might make crime more likely in your environment. And that kind of looks like what we saw over the summer. One of the things that actually makes communities like that more dangerous is the fact that the police continue this cycle of violence.
While dozens of our brothers and sisters are mowed down every weekend in our neighborhoods, Black Lives Matter and its supporters, with their bottomless obsession with racism, pretend to be leading us to a better future. But in fact, they're setting us into a spiral of self-destruction. It was an intense struggle for me.
Can you say why they are? Can you give an example of the type of self-destruction that they are leading you to?
To get to America. I love it too much to stand aside and watch it be torn apart. Stand with me. I'm not oppressed. I'm not a victim. I am a free American. I'm Nestra Yumga for Prager University.
Okay, so you're not oppressed or a victim, but I would argue, and I'm sorry if this is maybe not a delicate way to put it, but if someone is killed by a police officer, I would argue that person has been victimized. I don't want to take agency away from them, but they already don't have agency because they're dead. So I think it's pretty fucking rich, actually.
For watching this video. To keep Prager U videos free, please...
Cameroon buys weapons from the USA. Holy shit. I shouldn't laugh, actually. That's actually very bleak. But I don't know how to get the energy out because I'm just so mad. I'm just so mad. Scroll down the comments until the first time you find an N-word. No, it's DOS. Expecting my bow tie to spin any minute. That would be incredible. Oh. It's the part where she started talking about black on black crime is the moment when I realized, oh, they definitely wrote this beforehand, but then realized if they didn't have a black person read the script, it would obviously look super racist. Can we get some palate cleansing Gravel Institute after this? I've never watched anything from the Gravel Institute. Still super racist anyway, to be honest. Well, I'm not really going to tell... I don't know. I think it's a bad look for a white guy to tell a black lady she's being racist. I think I'd know, actually.
Do the one where the former Prime Minister of Canada talks about Israel. Yes, it exists.
Now, if I wanted to bore my audience, there are better ways than getting Stephen Harper on screen. And by the way, I didn't check that, but it's got to be Stephen Harper. There's no other former Prime Minister of Canada that's going to go on Prager U.
I got the money.
Oh, I'm not saying black people can't be racist. I'm simply saying it would be pretty fucked up for me to tell a black person that they're racist as a white person. All right. What else we got? All right, I've seen a few people congratulating Duke AJ, so I'm going to scroll up and see what that's about. Am I making bean pies? I don't know what bean pies are. Please see this time. I have a consultation with a gender therapist on Monday. I'm excited and nervous. Congratulations!
I got the money.
Why Colorblind is actually anti-racist, hosted by the man with the world record for least melanin. Prager U says it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up, says Prager U. Ted Cruz reading Brave New World. And there it is. The first time anyone's ever said brave and Ted Cruz in the same sentence.
I got Damuni.
Damani. Ricky Gervais. Oof. In honor of Herman Cain, and there's big text that says Uncle Tom. But surely Prager University would like Herman Cain. Surely.
I got the money.
Stop cops vilifying. We're
Ted
trying.
Cruz pees his pants on purpose because he likes the feeling of his warm, wet pants.
That is not a wet puppet, by the way, before anyone starts with me. If we lose John Locke, we lose America. But he's got to go back. He's got to go back to the island. I know they're talking about John Locke the philosopher, but I prefer to think they're talking about John Locke from Lost. Minimum wage cost me my job. I know you can't see the whole screen. That's intentional. All right. Famous American John Locke. The flag is still worth saluting. The left couldn't care less about blacks. What? This is something that always just... I don't know if this is actually racist or if maybe just the language has changed, but I always get really uncomfortable when people refer to black people as blacks. That to me, it feels, and I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but it just makes me really uncomfortable. Like it feels like you're deliberately excluding the word people. It's the same as when someone describes women as females. It's the same feeling for me. And that's why whenever I see it written down, I always read it as blacks instead of just, blacks as they're probably saying it. Again, I don't want to imply that means that it's necessarily a racist thing to say. I don't know. I legit don't know. But it just makes me uncomfortable. cops are the good guys. The mainstream media will not tell you that cops are the good guys. Show me one television show where there's a heroic police officer. You'll never find one. What is Antifa? Is there a video called What is Antifa? I didn't see that. There's one here that's who's more radical, the left or the right. That one's definitely going in the list. I have to see that one. Down a little bit. What is Antifa? All right, this is just a little crumb, but we gotta see it, right? Oh, hold on. This one, there's no noise, or there's no speaking. The United States has labeled Antifa a terrorist group. Antifa has a history of violently attacking conservatives and liberals. Is that who they have a history of attacking? Is that the first group you think of? Antifa recently joined Black Lives Matter protesters rioting over the death of George Floyd. But like, what does that mean? What do you mean Antifa joined? Like, anti-fascists joined? Antifa's goal is to create chaos, followed by anarchy. Actually, they're half right. It's to create order, followed by anarchy. Also, I love that this dude this is their like, he's gonna create chaos. And his shirt says, "Good night, white pride." He's very clearly trying to intimidate racists. And that's the picture that they chose to go like, oh, look how scary these guys are. In truth, the destruction of America is their aim. Yeah, but that's the same thing. In order to create anarchy, one would have to destroy America. Just like you'd have to destroy America to do anything worth doing. Antifa claims to fight fascism, but its roots and tactics are deeply fascist. Okay, one, this is a very lopsided sentence because they claim to fight fascism, and yet their roots and tactics are fascist. So do they fight fascism or not? It should read, Antifa claims to fight fascism, but they do not. Its roots and tactics are deeply fascist. But I digress. I'm excited to hear them explain how Antifa are the real fascists because they punch people. The group was once affiliated with the Communist Party of Germany. That's your evidence. That's your evidence that they're fascist, is that they were affiliated with the Communist Party, the enemy of fascists. Antifa members tend to be young and unemployed anarchists with a fondness for Marxism and communism. That one's true, actually. They got that one right. That one is true. I mean, we're not...
Everyone knows that National Socialists and Socialists are the same thing. Antifa is German for anti-democracy.
Of course. Everyone knows that. I don't think all Antifa are unemployed, though, because we do get paid the big money by George Soros, is the one caveat I would add there. They have been showing up to cause violence, destruction, as well as mayhem, among other things. They have been showing up showing up where? Like, that's just sloppy. Am I wrong? Like, isn't that just a wild sentence? They've been showing up to cause violence, destruction, and mayhem. What do you mean showing up? They repeatedly commit violent acts against innocent people. Like in this video clip, where they're not doing that. They're instead burning a flag, which is covered under the First Amendment. But I would say, actually, that the people that they tend to commit most of the violent acts toward tend to be...
Showing up at neo-Nazi rallies.
They tend to be fascists. You know what I mean?
Burger King.
It's the one thing they all kind of have in common. Oh no, I already read this. While claiming to fight against fascism. So who are the real fascists? Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scholar of fascism like to find people at Prager U. But when you look at a situation where you got some people that are chanting, Jews will not replace us, and they got a bunch of Nazi flags, Nazi tattoos, and a bunch of their friends are Nazis, and they call themselves fascists, and they're fascists, those are the ones. And punching them is...
You're giving me big Paul F. Tompkins vibes right now with that suit.
I am Paul F. Tompkins, and I always have been. Being anti-fascist would necessarily mean being against those people. Boy, just no like examples. Just like, oh, they commit violent acts and they're always going around beating up innocent people. Anyway, moving on. Like, they could have at least trotted out some bullshit examples, and I don't know, it's real lazy.
Is this an awards show? Why are you tucked up so nicely, slime fellow?
Because I'm a professor. We're at school. This is university, so I'm dressed up like a big nerd. These are my real glasses, by the way, which is very funny because whenever Spirit Halloween is in town, they sell an accessory called nerd glasses that are like if you want to dress up as a nerd for Halloween, cool costume, and they look exactly like this. They're like exactly the same, but these are prescription.
Professor Slime F. Tompkins.
Okay. What was the one that I said? Who's more radical, the left or the right? I must know.
Burger King.
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end.
Of course a man can get pregnant. It's pretty straightforward. A trans man with a uterus has sex with someone that has spermatozoa, and there's a baby. I win.
In a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions.
No, that's actually a misrepresentation, and I've actually added to this by like phrasing it this way. It's not that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions. It's that within a decade, if we don't and it's not capping carbon emissions, it's actually taking carbon out of the atmosphere. We have to take thousands of tons of it out of the atmosphere. If we don't do that within a decade, it creates a feedback loop which makes the world end. But it's not going to end in 10 years.
That the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery.
It obviously was. It obviously was.
On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races, that no one should pay taxes. But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions.
And also, all of the things they believe are fairly mainstream.
Cancel Halloween shop.
Completely uncontroversial, matter-of-fact things. Like, it's like, yeah, there's some people on the left that think the sky is blue and that a hot dog is a sandwich. wild. What's going on? And then there's some people on the right that think the white race is inherently superior. They don't have a lot of power. But it's also like they're arguing who's more radical, the left or the right. I thought for the life of me that their position was going to be the right is more radical and that's a good thing. But it appears that they're going with the idea that because the right's fringes are not represented by the halls of power, that makes them less radical. But that is the definition of the word radical.
I got the money.
In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question. Which group, the left or the right, is more radical? We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted?
So if the left got everything it wanted, and assuming we're talking about the actual left, not like, Nancy Pelosi or whatever, there would be no America. And if the right got what they wanted, there would also be no America, but just because they fucked everything up, not intentionally.
Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs.
Yeah, so, okay. Individuals and corporations. Which individuals in particular would the taxes go up on?
Everything from universal childcare to free college tuition.
Oh no!
Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%.
For whom?
Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services.
Help!
Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees.
Please tell me who can save me from this nightmare.
Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes. Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so.
Oh no!
Illegal immigrants would all...
This is... Okay, so in the nightmare hell world he is proposing, the way that he visually depicts that is by having this family in the back of a rickety-ass truck. The barbed wire is taken out of the way. Oh no! A world, imagine this horrible world without any barbed wire.
Do you have a take on Gravel Institute as an ostensible attempt as a leftist Prager U?
I haven't really watched them, but I get the impression they're fairly like libos. So it's, I'm kind of like Ken Watanabe in that Godzilla movie was like, let them fight,
also receive free healthcare, free education, and free housing. The Green New Deal would be adopted.
Oh, no.
Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget. Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether. So would nuclear power. As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher. Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear.
Exactly to whom is unclear. Actually, Doug, I think we know who it would go to. I think we have a pretty clear idea who the money would go to.
Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult. College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing. Transgender...
Well, do you think the left wants it so that people who've already paid for college get nothing? But, okay, look.
I got the money.
It's like, you see someone with a free hot dog, you're like, but I bought a hot dog yesterday.
You're threatening us with a good time.
Gender women, biological men who identify as women,
fuck you,
would be allowed to compete against women in sports.
Where they have no demonstrable advantage. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was scrolling chat and accidentally scrolled the video.
America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%.
That would still make it by factor of 10 the biggest military budget on Earth.
Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just a partial list.
What fucking leftist have you, leftist or liberal for that matter, have you ever heard advocate for a speech code? Ever? What, like...
Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted. Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes.
So, when he was talking about the left and the right, like he was talking about like the lunatic left, the ones who are going out there, they got all these radical ideas. And then with the right, he's like, well, if the right got their way, income tax would be cut. You said that the radical opinion among the right is that taxes would be abolished. Nobody would pay taxes. So that should be your scenario. That should be the thing. If America swings to the right, that should be what you're discussing. But you have to hedge your bets. You have to talk about, well, actually taxes would get cut. They wouldn't be abolished. So it would actually be pretty cool.
Would be cut. Corporate taxes would be cut. And those cuts would be made permanent. All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed.
I'm sorry, but in the left-wing one, they're like, free college, free healthcare, free schooling, you know, like, and that's like, oh no. And this one, it's like, doing business is going to be easier. What do you think the average person cares more about? Like, the average person doesn't run a business. They don't give a shit. They work for a business. They don't care if there's red tape in the way. Who fucking cares? They want to get like a college education. They don't want to be bogged down with student loans. They want to be able to get health care. Like, these are not equivalent promises.
The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rule.
Oh, and look how many of them said no. You know, the state should be allowed to decide. The state should have the right to decide, not the human being in question. The state should get to decide it. That's liberty, ladies and gentlemen.
Rules for itself.
And non-binary
Many more
friends.
charter schools would be opened, and it would become much easier to fire bad teachers. In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID. The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings.
Again, in their wild fantasy, it's like this Orwellian like border with like fucking like security cameras and like two guys with their arms folded across their chests like they're angry at you. Like you could have just drawn it like them smiling and like a happy Mexican family walking into the States, handing some papers and like, you know. But no, they have to like show that what we really want is for it to be scary and difficult for other people.
In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work.
So, you're telling me in the world where the right gets everything they want, there's still a welfare state? It's just like with more means testing? Bullshit.
The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines. Students in elementary school
Why is that
would
good?
recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day.
How is that not? So the left is going to enforce a speech code, but if the right gets in power, we're going to make these children pledge allegiance.
So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom. If the left
What? No, that does not follow from anything that you said.
got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen
Not
would have
really.
less freedom. You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty. You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in?
The one with all the cool stuff. The one where you said I could get a bunch of free stuff. That sounds tight as hell.
I'm Will Witt for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep Prager U videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Who is Will Witt? Let's find out. Let's find out who this haircut is. Let's look behind the haircut. Oh, he's shirtless with a doggo. He's got a nice little Tinder picture. Prager U, Instagram, and Snapchat. What a cool description. Not to brag or anything, but I've been on Prager U and Snapchat. Oh, and
I got the money.
he's retweeting Jack Probiotic as well. See, I got there. I did it. I told you I would. Oh, One America News Network. Lovely, lovely stuff. Okay. He seems like a real cool guy. Am I using incognito mode? No, I forgot. One thing you can do though, you can go into your history and remove them.
There's a video called A Black South African on Israel and word which one can't say. Oh goody, this should be fun.
There is no apolitical classroom. There isn't one.
Do you know what's going on in your kid's school? If not, now would be a good time to take a look. Here's what you're likely to
How little of an attention span do you assume your audience has that you have to animate each and every word of what you're saying? You can't just like animate a sentence. Like the sentence can't like spin onto the screen and then it, you know, there it is, you can read it. No, each word as they're saying it has to like pop in like a bubble.
find. According to the education establishment, the purpose of public education is no longer just to teach the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
I would say if anyone thought those all three letters began with R, they didn't do so great on the R, on the first R, reading, you know?
It is to awaken students to the fact that they live in a country that has been, remains, and will probably always be racist.
Now, I don't think that that is the purpose of public education, but I think that if you're going to teach history, and I think if you're going to teach people useful information that contextualizes the world they find themselves in, an education is kind of incomplete in America without that. Yes.
Here's how the American Association of School Administrators, AASA, recently described
This man looks like he's been crying.
its mission. At a time of obscene inequities, merely trying to compensate is not enough. AASA's work must go further and become actively anti-racist.
I got the
No! They highlighted actively anti-racist. Like it's, what? Huh? They said that? What a damning quote he's found.
Being anti-racist sounds simple and laudable. Treat everyone the same. A version of the golden rule.
Well, no, I don't think being anti-racist means to treat everyone the same, because some people are not the victims of racism, right? Like me, for example. I'm a good example of that. Everywhere I go, I never face racism. It's pretty sweet. So if you treated everybody like you treated me, then you'd be ignoring the racism that they suffer, right?
got the money.
What could be wrong with that? Nothing. Except, that's not what the educational elite means by anti-racism. Anti-racism, in its current formulation, does not mean equal treatment of others.
Nor should it.
It is an all-encompassing ideology that demands that white people accept that their behavior is either implicitly or explicitly racist, and has been for at least 400 years.
Yeah, no shit. But like, the way that you're phrasing it, it's like, it's not that all of white people's behavior is explicitly or implicitly racist. Like if I wake up in the morning and I make myself some oatmeal, I'm not doing a racism by doing that. But
got the money.
there are attitudes that people grow up with in society, and there's preconceptions they have about people of other races that they might not be able to confront. But you don't have to be an actual racist, like a bigoted, evil person, to have an implicit racial bias. It's actually kind of the opposite of the white guilt narrative that they try and force down your throats.
The catch-22 here is that to say you're not racist only proves how racist you really are. That is, you are so racist you don't even know it. And if this accusation upsets you, that's proof of your white fragility.
Okay, but like, is this happening in schools? Are teachers like going to the white students and saying, "Excuse me, Billy, are you racist?" And he's like, "I don't think so." And the teacher's like, "Aren't you though?"
Burger King.
It's like, I don't think that anyone is, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but like, I don't think that anyone is like completely racist in that like everyone has other qualities, right? You are not just a racist. You can be like a racist and a math teacher. You can be a racist and an astronaut or something, you know? But like, everybody has racist ideas and everybody occasionally does racist things because in a culture of white supremacy, you just absorb shit. It's not, no one's saying that you're like an evil person who's being deliberately bigoted. That's not what people are. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir.
Education Week's Classroom Q&A blog tells teachers that, as Ibram X. Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, would say, there is no not racist. There is only racist and anti-racist. Your silence favors the status quo and the violently oppressive harm it does to black and brown folk everywhere.
Again, there is nothing damning about this quote. It is such a straightforward quote. It's basically saying the old adage about like, all that is required for evil to flourish in the world is for good men to do nothing. It's the same thing. If you're simply not racist and not actively anti-racist, then you're simply allowing racism to happen, you know, through inaction. So the end result is the same. It's all this person is saying.
In my American high schooler, school day would start with 2 minutes hated all white people.
What Kendi is saying is, if you don't voice active agreement with him, you are a racist.
No, I don't think that's what he's saying, actually. I think, actually, if unless the thing you disagree with him about is whether or not black people are equals, and whether or not, and by our, I mean white people. I'm white, so I say our. I don't mean our as in me and you, because many people in the audience are not white. I think what he's saying is the shit I said earlier when I talked about how the all that is required for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. That's what he's saying. He's not saying, oh, either you agree with me or you're racist. It's that being not racist is not enough. You have to actually fight racism.
And if you treat people equally, regardless of race, you're also a racist.
Yeah, kinda.
Anti-racists embrace racial discrimination, as long as it's done on their terms. As Kendi has said, the only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. I understand how wrong this might sound. It turns the Martin Luther King concept of racial equality
This man is now going to argue that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would not agree with the premise that in order to fight racism, you have to actively fight it rather than simply not participate. Okay, here he goes.
On its head. But that's exactly the point. Lorena Germain, who chairs the Committee on Anti-Racism for the National Council of the Teaching of English, makes this clear. At the height of the recent urban unrest, Germain wrote that arsonists should serve as a model for teachers. Educators, what are you burning?
Based.
Your white-centered curriculum? The school's racist policies? Your racist-ass principal? The funding for police and schools versus counselors? What are you burning?
See, like, okay, but like, she's clearly speaking in analogy. You know how I know that is because you can't burn funding. It's not a thing you can touch and hold and burn. She's clearly speaking in analogy. She's saying, what are you getting rid of? What are you stopping? And all of those things are things that should be gotten rid of. We should be getting rid of white-centered curriculum, schools' racist policies, racist principles, the funding for police and schools versus counselors. All of those things should be done away with. What she is saying is completely non-controversial.
Germain's call to commit arson may have been metaphorical, but her...
May have been. No, I think she literally meant to burn down the concept of funding police and schools. You have to do that literally.
Call to get rid of traditional school curriculum is not. A lesson plan created by the New York City Culturally Responsive Education Working Group, Transforming Our Public Schools, a guide to culturally responsive and sustaining education, tells teachers that the whole Western canon is rife with horrible stories and atrocities of who we are as people of color. For their part, the National Committee on Social Studies has promised to flood our children with countermessages until there is no racial inequality in economic opportunity, no racial inequality in education, no racial inequality in incarceration rates, and no brutality from police and others.
Well, clearly something must be done.
If that sounds to you a lot more like political indoctrination than education, you would be right. New York State now encourages teachers to incorporate current events, even if they are controversial, into instruction, and to utilize tools that encourage students to engage with difficult topics, power, privilege, access, and equity, constructively. We might all wish that as cultural and political polarization reaches...
You're not even going to explain why that's bad. You're just going to move on. Oh, these guys are talking about things that are happening. Teachers informing our children about events in the world. What is our education system come to?
Into more and more areas of American life. Schools could remain an apolitical oasis where children can learn to read, write, and develop skills of socialization.
Wait, the title of the...
This is the dumbest, most infuriating crap I've ever heard.
Also,
paradox of tolerance. It's a thing.
The title of this video is There Is No Apolitical Classroom. So what they mean by that is that there is no apolitical classroom anymore, but there should be.
But if that's what you want for your children, then just know that anti-racist educators think that you are part of the problem.
Me?
According to a writer for Teaching Tolerance, a project of the Southern Poverty Law Center, anti-racist educators recognize that schools today are doing exactly what they were built to do in this country. Exclude, silence, erase, promote white supremacy. An anti-racist approach to schooling could very well mean an ending to schools as we know them.
Based.
That is certainly true. The National Council on the Teaching...
The person who said that was saying it based on the idea that schools are rooted in all of those horrible things, oppression, white supremacy. If you wanted to debate that point, you should then demonstrate why schools are not based around oppression and white supremacy. Otherwise, ending schools as we know them is self-evidently the right thing to do.
I got the money.
Teaching of English insists there is no apolitical classroom. The educational elite has a very clear lesson plan in mind for your children. If you're okay with it, you can send Johnny and Jennifer off to school with a glad heart. If you're not okay with it, better talk to the principal or get ready with a plan B.
Has someone kidnapped someone close to this man? He seems so scared of delivering this. You can send your children away with a glad heart. But if you're not okay with it, you better have a plan B.
I'm Max Eden, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute.
You know what's interesting is if you look at him from the eyes up, he's Tim Pool. It's only from the eyes down that it becomes not Tim Pool. Isn't that interesting?
For Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep Prager U videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
These guys are great. I don't know why everybody's so mad at this YouTube channel. They're just telling it like it is.
I got the money.
Pardon me. It's infinite content, that's right. It's my video that I made this week is like, I don't know what to make a video about. Okay, well, if you don't know what to make a video about, pick a random reactionary, just find one of their videos and make some. And I just went to Prager University knowing I'll find something that'll make me mad. Something there will make me mad enough that I have to make a video. The ad was like a robocaller saying press 1 for English. Okay. I'm going to watch one more Prager University video, then we're going to wind down and we're just going to hang out. Because my soul can only take so much of this. And I'll read out all the messages I missed too. I don't want it to get in the way of my biting wit and commentary. It's got to be a good one. We got to find a good one. Do the 9/11 one. The one that's like, there's a lot of 9/11 ones. There's what happened on 9/11. 9/11 we must never forget. Remember 9/11. Police brutality. Myth.
Burger King.
I kind of want to watch It's Time to Grow Up, I'm not going to lie. I kind of want to know. Because I want to grow up. I'm wearing a bow tie. I want to be a grow up. Let's do this.
We all know it takes a long time to grow up, not only biologically, but psychologically.
He would... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not in the right scene. This man would know that it takes a long time to grow up because he's 1,000 years old by the looks of it.
There's a saying among psychiatrists that it takes 50 years to overcome the first 20. Here's the good news. Unlike other species, we are not restrained by our instincts alone. We are able to learn from our parents, our experiences, and our culture. Here's the bad news.
I think other species definitely learn from their parents. Like, you can see animals teach their young things.
Nobody matures
Just wanted
without
to
effort.
say your bow tie
It doesn't
plus
happen
suit looks
naturally.
amazing.
It takes a
Love
lot
your
of hard
content,
work.
Thought slime.
But what does it mean to be mature?
Mature. What does it mean to be mature? Probably that's a test he just did. If anybody laughs at him for the way that he pronounces the word mature like an asshole, then that means they're immature. I bet that's a test he's pulling.
Good question. So let's answer it. I have identified 5 characteristics of maturity. If you work to possess them all, you will have a happier, deeper, and more productive life.
Okay, lay it on me,
1,
teach.
Taking control.
How does one take control if they do not already have control? Presumably, if things are out of your control, then there's nothing you can do to change that. So the only way for you to take control is if things were already under your control in the first place. This is a paradox. and I win. I win at philosophy.
I got the
Of course, you had no choice what era you were born in, or where you were born, or who your parents are. But with each year of childhood, you attain more and more capacity to chart your own course. Yes, society and fate play a role, but cultivating your ability and willingness to make your own decisions expands your ability to influence how your life unfolds.
Well, to an extent, right? Like, if I'm born without the ability to walk, then I can't take control of that. I can't then become, if my dream is to be an NBA player, I can't, because they don't let people in the NBA in wheelchairs. Even if I got so good at basketball that I could compete, they wouldn't let me in. And like, it's just putting aside that like, oh yeah, some people are going to be born unfathomably rich, but most people are going to be born into crushing poverty. But just take control. Just control the situation so that you have more money, obviously. It's so easy. Even a child could understand.
The only way to achieve maturity is to take charge of your life. Nothing empowers you as much as exercising that control. Refusing to act, waiting to be rescued, and seeing yourself as a victim are sure signs of immaturity. 2, taking responsibility. I mean this in 2 ways. The first way is simply to acknowledge that you're responsible for what you do.
Okay, all right.
If you make a mistake, acknowledge it. Don't alibi and don't blame others. This is an easy.
Don't alibi? Wouldn't an alibi mean... Is there another meaning to the word alibi? Because I've always understood it to mean like, oh, there's a reason that it couldn't have been me that did this. I can prove I didn't do it because I was doing something else. Right?
Easy thing to say, but we all know it's very hard to do. A mature person does it. A mature person takes responsibility.
Why did they get the guy who can't pronounce the word mature to make a video about maturity? Because I gotta be honest, I'm starting to forget how the word sounds. I worry he's gonna have some sort of mimetic influence over my mind, and I'm gonna start saying it like mature, like this prick.
Responsibility. Second is the willingness to take on obligations and fulfill them. For example, I got married and took on obligations to my wife and children.
Take control
I have
of your
ethical
life by
obligations to
investing
my
in making
patients
your
and my
money work for
profession,
you.
even on days
Until
that I
Wall
might
Street
not
cuts
feel
off
like
your
it.
ability to buy
A
more
mature
stock.
person doesn't see obligations as burdens, but as something he willingly accepts and sees through to fulfillment. 3, containing emotions. I would never suggest that you should ignore your emotions, but you have to learn to contain them. Immature people lash out at their boss or their coworker if something doesn't go their way, or argue.
Don't lash out at your boss if things don't go your way. Just quietly, just don't ignore your feelings. Gotta feel your feelings, but don't show them to anyone, and don't make it difficult for your boss or the guy who's your boss's boss or the CEO or anyone more important than you.
With their spouse when they come home, or turn to alcohol or drugs because of a rough day. I often tell my patients that maturity can be measured by how much anxiety they can tolerate without acting out inappropriately against.
Oh, then I'm the world's most mature human being. By this metric. I think everyone in this chat is probably insanely mature.
Against themselves or others. Mature people express their emotions in the right place, at the right time, in the right way. We are emotional beings, but we should never let go of the steering wheel. That is, we need to learn how and when to contain our emotions.
That's not advice. That's like 5 rules to learn how to be good at baseball. 1, be really good at pitching. 2, be really good at batting. Like, yeah, how do I do that?
4, having perspective. An immature teenager will regard a pimple as a catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius, or will...
I have never met a teenager who even gave the slightest shit about a single pimple. I have never... I've seen it in lots of movies. I've been a teenager. I was a teenager for many years, about 7, as a matter of fact. And I received many pimples. Still get pimples as an adult. I never... Like, people who had, like, really severe acne... that might bother them, but that's a persistent condition. And it's also not so much that they have it that is the problem. It's the fact that, like, people would pick on them, which is an appropriate thing to be upset about.
Regard rejection by a girlfriend or boyfriend as the end of the world. Maturity comes from putting disappointments into perspective. The reason we forgive a teenager's overreaction is because we understand it's probably the first time it's happened. But life's disappointments don't stop when you turn 21. Far from it. Disappointments of every variety, great and small, happen throughout life.
I got the money.
Boy, imagine just... It makes my heart hurt a little bit for this man, because you know he has some experience he's talking from here. You know that life has disappointed him more than he can admit. Like, you just look at this hangdog face on him. Ugh.
The mature person learns from them and gets stronger each time he recovers. This kind of mature thinking is best expressed in the famous advice given to King...
Anything bad that happens to you in life, simply learn from it and get stronger. Like, for example, if your father dies, learn from it. Learn that don't die, and that makes you stronger. If your business goes under, learn from it. Do a business is going to do better next time. If you get cancer, simply learn how not to get cancer, and that will make you stronger if you live.
King Solomon, this too shall pass. Perspective also means that when we are upset with someone dear to us, we have to put that negative experience in the context of the entire relationship. Immature people demonize a friend or a relative they are upset with and forget or ignore all the love and good experiences they once had. Mature people see the whole picture.
I don't know if that's necessarily an immature person, but a dick. You're referring to it like an asshole, not an immature person.
Not only the good and not only the bad. 5, achieving deep understanding.
Oh, is that all? If you're watching this and you feel like you're immature and you really want to get your act together, simply learn to understand. Achieve a deep understanding. What could be simpler?
This takes the concept of empathy to a higher level. Beyond tuning into another's feelings, this is about comprehending the ways in which another's ideas and behaviors make sense to them. You don't have to agree with that person, but you need to be able to get inside their thinking. You need to...
So, for example, if you see someone who's lashing out, the wrong thing to do would be to assume, oh, there's an immature person. You know, you might want to look at it from their perspective and think, I wonder why they're lashing out. No.
To understand why they believe what they believe. A good way to do this is to repeat what a person has said back to them.
1 sees control.
Is this
3
what you meant?
evaluate. 3 become
If they say
robot
yes it
or
is,
destroy
then you...
important targets. 5 become omniscient.
Just simply repeat back to them what they said. That's how you become an empathetic person, is you just repeat what people are saying back to them. And then what they will say is, yes, it is, you're being really annoying. Yeah. If I understand what you're saying correctly, you don't like that I'm repeating what you're saying back to you? Yes, that's true. So you'd like me to stop repeating what you're saying back to you?
You know, and they know, that you've reached a deeper understanding. This kind of understanding, by the way, is indispensable to achieving true intimacy.
Ooh, tell me about intimacy, Doc. I bet I want to. Ooh, I'm getting a little hot under the collar listening to this guy talk about intimacy.
Explains why the mature person is able to have more intimate relationships than the immature person ever will.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. When I think of like people that have a lot of intimacy in their lives, it's definitely correlated with a deep and abiding maturity.
Taking control, taking responsibility, containing your emotions, having perspective, achieving deep understanding. These are 5 characteristics of maturity. Together, they can lead you to a deeper and happier life. I'm Dr. Stephen Marmer, psychiatrist, UCLA School of Medicine for Prager University.
Wait a minute, why are you from 2 different universities? I don't understand. That was nonsense. Like, look. I spent a significant portion of my week reading Power Rangers comics. I'm not gonna claim to be the most mature guy in the room. I know I got some growing up to do. But none of that was advice. It's simply like, here are some things you have to be good at to be mature. Okay, how do you get good at those things? What do you do? This is because the real purpose of content like this isn't to help people, it's to shame them. It's to go, oh, the reason your life is bad is because of all of these things that you're doing. So simply stop doing those without like any plan, without any like steps someone could take that would help them gain perspective, that would help them gain empathy, that would help them take control. None of that is material, right? It's
money.
all right. That's about all the Prager U I'm going to handle tonight. I'm going to hang out and I'm going to read some of your messages. But first, I
Liking
have
things
to...
is shameful.
Liking things is terrible. Yes, I agree. First, I have to whiz once more. So let's get some music going. Let's get some... Couldn't find any songs to play. Cool. Let's go with chill pop. Couldn't find... Try adjusting your filters in the bottom. I don't have no filters. I don't have any filters. What the heck, pretzel? Surprise me. There we go. I'll be back in 1 second. Alright, I'm back. Alright. Okie dokie. Huh. Let's read some of these nice messages all you fine folks said to me today. I always feel bad if I miss messages, so I always have to read them out. Okay, alright. Hello, Thought Slime. Hello, chaps. Professor Slime coming in with a fire lecture on the history of Zimbabwe. I don't know nothing about Zimbabwe. Michael Wilson, everyone hates me. I already responded to that. Prager U, more like get played, Gerd U. Fucking got him. You don't need to try and say my name this time. Thank you for doing what you do. I am not going to try. It's a bunch of ones and eyes. Looking spiffy, man. Have a good stream. Thank you, Patricio. Love your videos. Wish I could stay longer. Can't wait for tomorrow's video. When can we expect the return of the eyeball zone? Whatever that is. I have no idea what you're referring to. Nothing has changed about my videos. They've been exactly the same. Hello and welcome to the Poindexter Zone. Are you quoting something? Thought Slime is extremely cute. You can't change my mind. I could, given time. Prager U, Trailer Park, Harvard. I don't know. People in trailer parks can be just as smart as everybody else. Let's not be like that. I always wondered how many people actually take Prager U seriously. Even among my neolib friends, it's a meme how bad and outlandish their ideas are. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone really. Like, conservatives, I think, more so than... I mean, all conservatives are neoliberal, but not all neoliberals are conservative. Are you familiar with SCP? If not, you're missing out. It's a community-written horror site with a lot of cosmic horror, which I absolutely love. I am familiar with SCP. I think... I'm trying to think what my favorite one would be. I don't know. I like... if you've never seen the videos by Lord Bung, he does an animated series about an SCP who's a guy that just reincarnates the minute he dies. He just like pops back into existence, like a new version of him. And he's sent in to test other SCPs. It's really interesting. Professor Slimy, isn't there anything I could do to improve my grade? Anything? Yeah. Study. I need to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, but you're the best. Absolutely. Go watch Nightmare on Elm Street. It's priorities. 100% not donating and using my English expressions like up the swanny again. May as well open up the big book of British smiles. Keep up the good work, my dude. I'm the last person who's going to judge people based on their teeth. What if these videos make me conservative? Did they? Metallic Complex, can you confirm or deny whether or not you've been made conservative by the pure rhetorical power of Prager University? The one about the war on Christmas is pure cringy gold. It's not seasonal, though. It's no longer Christmas. We're in February. It's time for Valentine's Day. Your bow tie is excellent, my good slime. Thank you. Once again, this is a pre-tied bow tie. I do know how to tie a bow tie now. I will never stop talking about that. I simply don't own a real bow tie. Do I watch the Gravel Institute? They position themselves as a leftist alternative to Prager U, who cite their sources. I think they're neat. Once again, I've never watched them, but my impression is that they're pretty lib. Am I wrong? Borgar King. Thank you, Marty. Booty Spoon. Looking sharp in the bow tie, brother. Thank you, Brian Boney. Why don't these guys just invest in green energy since they're multi-billionaires? Wouldn't that be easier long term? No, because instead of investing in that, they can just invest in Prager University to convince people not to have to do that. Huge tracts of land. Thank you, Landy Weeks. Your name is Landy, so that adds an extra entendre to what you're saying. I'm Dennis Prager, and I've smeared my urine and feces on the wall of the Applebee's bathroom. Thank you for the donation in Canadian dollars, Dennis Prager. I used to do an exclusive, not actually real tradition of me and 5 friends wearing bow ties on Friday at my private high school. Then I didn't want to be conservative. Went back to public high school. I felt better. That sounds exactly like what I assume private high schools are like. Choosing a video to ridicule from PU is like choosing candy in a candy shop. You know what's interesting about that? That is proof of Prager University did not consult any young people before putting up this YouTube page designed primarily to attract a young audience. Because if they did, anyone would have told them, hey guys, your initials are PU. That's the stink noise. You're naming yourself after the stink noise. How the hell are donations to that grift house tax deductible? Most NGOs are grifts. So you know, pretty much all nonprofits, like bar a select few, are just nonsense. Isn't it so sad how they treated that Patriot MTG? Freedom is gone, I guess. I don't know what that means, but all patriots must be treated badly, so I'm cool with it. That last part seemed like a good point to raise the minimum wage. I think that having destroyed all arguments against raising the minimum wage, how on earth would anyone not do it? Magic the Gathering? Magic the Gathering is not a patriot. Am I reading all their messages? No, I'm reading donation messages because I feel bad if people donate and I don't read them. But then I feel bad when I do read them because I feel like people feel like they have to donate, and it's just a constant cycle of me feeling bad no matter what my behavior is at any given moment. What is Big Green? The best bad dub of DBZ ever. Better than Dragon Ball Z Abridged? Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, fuck off. Not the person who explained it, the person who called her a patriot. Unless you're being sarcastic, in which case, don't fuck off. Oh, she's the lady that said there was a Jewish space laser. I've been off of Twitter, so I don't know all of the new things that are happening, so excuse me. You got the money. Thank you, Vicky. Wow, you look nice tonight. Watched Psycho Goreman last weekend. What a ridiculous great movie. Thanks. You're quite welcome. Thank you for watching Psycho Goreman. Nice white nationalist haircut, bruh. I'm reappropriating it. Now it's a white nerd haircut. This appears to be an avocado. Thank you, Team Saul. Watching Prager, I think the rich actually want to murder us for a bigger number on a computer server. Of course they do. Did you not know that? Well, that's convinced me. Let's all go join the GOP and drink gasoline forever. God damn it. We lost another one. Thank you, Jandra. I hope I'm reading that right. I'm definitely not. How the left sees the world. Indeed. It's how I see the world, and I'm the left. I'm the entire left. Sipping for my hot, gradually warming gay wife. That got me. Things are worse elsewhere, so nothing is wrong here. Exactly! If you think America has any problems, simply look out the window at all of the worst countries. Oh no, Tucker Carlson has possessed Matt's body. Someone get an old priest and a young priest. It wasn't Tucker Carlson that possessed my body. I mean, no one has possessed my body. No, there's always been the Solidarity Corner. You already do the one on Confederate monuments? No, I have to look at more monuments so that I understand history, because that's what monuments are for. You look at them and then you know history. Once I've done that, once I've learned the history, then I can tackle those videos. But there's unfortunately no other way to learn history other than looking at Confederate monuments specifically. Thought Slime, you were in my dream last night. Oh. You were working at a gas station selling Nintendo cartridges that had all your videos on them. That rules! You had such an on-brand dream for me. You had such an appropriately branded dream. You gonna do the videos that Stephen Harper hosted? Never. You gotta keep these streams entertaining, you know? I don't want Stephen Harper up there. World's most boring individual. Thank you for your sacrifice you are making in watching this worthless trash garbage. I did it not, it wasn't a sacrifice for me, it was a sacrifice for my audience. Hey, Slimy, what's the oldest video on that channel? I don't know. Go to the channel and sort them by...
Have you seen the 2000 stop-motion animated movie Chicken Run?
I have
If
seen
so,
Chicken
do you
Run.
think it has revolutionary undertones?
I do.
If not, you should then do a video about its revolutionary undertones. Thanks.
You just go to the video and you just go to the channel and you can sort them by oldest and you can find out what the oldest one is. But I'm not going to do the first Prager University video because it's probably just an introduction to Prager University. Can you look up a picture of August Ngutu Clementine? You look exactly like him right now. All right, let's look him up. Yeah, it's me. Hold on. Hold on. That's me. Oh, hold on, I'm in the way. I don't have a mustache, but yeah. I mean, I do, but... Nope, that's the one. Okay. Thought slime for Prime Minister just because they say Gravel. That's how it's pronounced, I thought. Isn't it Gravel? I always want to say Gravel Institute, but I'm pretty sure it's Mike Gravel, isn't it? Looking slick and killing my man. Is it, did you say, Alcoholic Alligators, did you say looking slick and killing my man? Or did you say looking slick and killing my man? They're very different, very different emotions I would have. You wearing a monocle? I don't own one. These are my real glasses.
Thanks for a fun, informative, and most important TMA tour stream.
We will have our day, trans rights, forever. Trans people will have every day someday in the future. It will become a trans world, and the cis will merely live in it. This sounds awful. Well, better side with the neo-Nazis. I assume, Calvin, you were referring to the What is Antifa video. That's the reaction they're hoping to provoke. The radical fringe on the right has no power is not a take that has aged well. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that. But yeah, after it turns out that a bunch of establishment right politicians seem to support the radical right and give them, the location of sitting Congress people. That take could use a little shine on that one. Trans rights are human rights. Yeah, but if that were true, then I feel like people would be saying trans rights in chat. Why aren't people saying trans rights in chat if that's the case? You know what I mean? I would expect then people to say trans rights in chat. Oh, they are saying trans rights in chat. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, no, you're right then. What about the racial stuff, Prager U? This is exactly the question I would like to pose to them. Notice how he doesn't mention the border with Canada? Because Canadians are because if we sneak into America, we would just say we're sorry. What about securing the Canadian border? We don't need another beaver. You do need more beavers. You don't know. You don't know what he's done for you. And I'm not a Bieber, and I hope to someday go to the United States so that my life can be worse than it is now. Individual liberty equals charging hundreds of dollars for life-saving drugs that cost nothing to produce. Sounds legit. I mean, they don't cost nothing to produce, but close enough to nothing that it's, any amount of money would be monstrous, but it's extra monstrous that it costs so little. If I had a free government-provided food and shelter, it'd be easier to start a business. I wouldn't need to worry about paying rent or buying food. I assume this is in reference to when they were talking about removing barriers in the way of starting a business as part of the what the right would get. But yeah, no, obviously the number one thing keeping most people from starting businesses is that they need to buy other things and they can't afford to start a business. So please make a response video to this saying how the US please make a response video to this saying how the US would actually be if the far right took power. Yeah, I made one. It was a video on the Turner Diaries. My envy. I hate Prager and just got my unemployment check. Take my money. If you're on unemployment, you need the money more than I do. I don't mean to sound judgy when I say that, but please don't. What happened to, the actual radical right things he mentioned? He just changed it to just the moderate right. If the moderate right got everything they wanted, things would be moderate. Yeah, it's by definition, yes. As an Aussie kid who was made to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in a U.S. kindergarten weeks after landing in the country, F that. That's wild to me that Americans have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Because I went to Catholic school, and the equivalent there is like we would say Our Father or Hail Mary every morning. And so to me, having them say the Pledge of Allegiance reads as like a religious thing. That's why it's so strange to me. Check out Will's failed Reddit AMA. He got ratioed hard. That sounds hilarious. Loving your stuff here in Montreal. Keep going. Thank you. Very French name that I will now attempt to pronounce. Arnaud Langanese de Marie. Better than I thought I'd do, but definitely not good. Do you need an intern? I am brilliant with Excel. This is a thing, and I suppose I should take this as a compliment, but recently I've gotten a lot of people asking me if I have any jobs available for them. And it's like, no, I do all of this. I do all of this stuff on my channel. If other people were doing the work for me, it would be way better.
From one Canadian to another.
I made it all. There are some things like the background was made by a CG artist in my Discord, and before that it was made by a pixel artist in my Discord. And obviously, anytime I use footage from somewhere else, they made that, but and obviously no one makes anything in a vacuum. Someone made Premiere Pro, someone made YouTube, but I don't know. I'm not comfortable. I wouldn't know how to split the revenue working with someone else is the problem.
You made some pretty obvious mistakes in the min-wage video, except for the core message.
I was raised by a Klan family, and now I'm a queer NB. Anti-racism is a process that continues. It's not a momentary lesson. Agreed! No. You see, what we need to keep doing is teaching 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and how J.D. Rockefeller was a heck of a sweet fella. Is that J.D. Rockefeller was a heck of a sweet fella? Is that a real saying? Or did you just drop that? Because that's bars. But J.D. Rockefeller's a monster. I've never heard it, if that's a thing that is taught in schools. Are we in, this song is, what's the spooky town in Pokemon? Is it Lavender Town? No, Lavender Town's an artist on YouTube. What's the spooky town in Pokemon? It is Lavender Town. One day I come home, said I don't think my buddy Omar is ever going to explode just because I'm around. Dad hasn't spoke to me in years. I don't understand. One day I came home, said I don't think my buddy Omar is ever going to explode just because I'm around. Dad hasn't spoken to me in years. I don't understand. This makes my brain hurt, but in a good way, like a reverse anxiety attack. So being calm, one might say. For all the right preaches personal responsibility, they sure do love dodging responsibility to not be racist. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. This is a straight up good point. Well, yeah. That whole talk about responsibility flies in the face of everything they said in all the other videos. 1619 Project. I don't know what the 1619 Project is. As a philosophy major, that's the gist of winning philosophy now. These MFers have terrible initial premises. I've already won philosophy. Philosophy 2? Wow, I feel bad I didn't see that coming. What about philosophy 2? What about Abigail Thorne? When everyone is around and we're swinging for long bombs away, how do we come to know, man, this is really is what it's for? What? Am I losing my ability to read? When everyone is around and we're swinging for long bombs away, how do we come to know, man, this really is what it's for? I don't understand. This is for more Power Rangers comics so that you don't get too mature. What do I think of Peter Gabriel? I'm on a kick right now. Love the bow tie, by the way. I have no strong feelings about Peter Gabriel. I like Sledgehammer. Both the song and the instrument. The tool, I should say. And in the time it took me to read those, now I've got a whole other page. Reading about Marmor and dude is criminally negligent. Falls asleep in sessions. As a medical professional, it's sickening how he continues to practice. That was the incredibly old man, Marmor. He looked like he would fall asleep in sessions. He looked like he barely stayed awake during the video. People keep asking about the eyeball zone, yet you have no idea what it is. Don't you think you should look into why everyone asks about it? No one's ever asked me about an eyeball zone, and I don't know what it is. And I think we should all abandon this line of inquiry before it leads us to any problems. Everyone go read about the Doritos Volcano SCP? That sounds rad, though. That sounds like heaven. Let it be said, I like Doritos. They're tasty. You shouldn't eat them, as they will kill you instantly by eating even one. But they're tasty, especially the ketchup flavored ones, which are Canada exclusive, baby. I had someone I knew personally try to argue with me on Facebook and linked Prager U videos in earnest. What a nerd! Imagine watching any of the videos we watched tonight and thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, when you put it that way, that makes sense. How credulous would you have to be? Thank you for helping me in some dark times. You're welcome, Guidotron82. This person just gave me a little picture of a cat. Hello. A little picture of a kitty cat. Professor Slime, do I get extra credit for dismantling unjust hierarchies? No, you take extra credit for dismantling unjust hierarchies. You don't wait for me to give it to you. You take it. Dennis Prager has a mayonnaise-filled body. Thank you. That is, if I ever, again, in my life need to kill an erection, that is the sentence I will think about. I love you. Don't feel bad. But I feel bad that people have parasocial love for me. Oh no! You don't need to feel bad about reading and or not reading this. And yet, I feel bad about both simultaneously. It's Schrodinger's guilt. It's a Catholic thing. Yes, I was being sarcastic. Magic the Gathering can F off. Also, Tucker Carlson is jealous of that sweet bow tie. Tucker Carlson doesn't even wear bow ties anymore. Coward. Eli Different just gave me a little picture of a peach. Looks kind of like a butt. Nizumi wants to watch Psycho Gorman. It's Ray's sense of humor in a lot of ways, but too scary is for her, and Ray's been fronting lately. Listen. Ray, get out of there. Let Nizumi watch Psycho Gorman. Trust me. What are your thoughts on Jagmeet Singh and the NDP? I will usually vote NDP because it's the best. It's the lesser of three evils. By a wide margin, but they're by no means the party that I wish they were. And they're seemingly committed to always losing elections, so there's that. But Jagmeet is amazing in debates. Because he's the only person there that isn't like a monster man. Like he's there to like say the things that he believes. Because he's an actual person with integrity and thoughts. So, I can't remember the guy who was there for the People's Party of Canada, which was this far-right populist party that tried to get off the ground in the last federal election. And he was saying, Jugmeat over there is saying I shouldn't be on this stage. And Jugmeat just leans into his microphone and says, yeah, you shouldn't. It's a disgrace. And it ruled. And I'm like, where is this energy in politics? Be not deceived, the eyeballs still watch. I don't know. I don't know where people are getting these ideas. I don't know where people are hearing this kind of stuff. Congratulate us in NY for getting walking while trans repealed, stopping unjust stops of trans people profiled as sex workers. That is awesome. I thought that was already illegal. I thought like after Giuliani left, they got that stop and frisk or carding or I guess those are two different things. But I thought they ended carding. But I guess they were just still doing it to trans people if they thought they were sex workers. That's rough. Well, congratulations on getting it repealed. Have you ever done a segment on how manipulative the auto industry is and how to not get ripped off? I work in car sales and it's crazy bad sometimes. Well, I don't have a driver's license, so maybe when I get one and buy a car, then I will do a video on that. And I did recently get my G1, which is the equivalent in Ontario of a learner's permit. Nathan Bay says trans rights. You know what to do. We had a wild beaver here in New Orleans. What do you mean, just one? There's so many beavers here in Canada.
The Canadian Greens to the left of the NDP? In what ways is the NDP to the left of the Canadian Greens?
Can we get more Carly Rae Jepsen instead of beavers, please? Is Carly Rae Jepsen? Let's try that. Let's try saying that name again. Is Carly Rae Jepsen Canadian? I didn't know that. Great outfit and great work. Sending love. Thank you, Gilded Cats. I sell my opinions to Google for money, then turn around and give the money to you. Praxis or not? I mean, it's not praxis. No, it's better than paying, I suppose, but it's, I mean, you know, you're still helping Google's algorithms. You shouldn't, like, I do those things too, because you get, like, Google Play credits that you can get anytime you have to buy an app or make a purchase in an app, you get it for free. It rules. It's, you know, it's consumerism still. It's just better. It's just more convenient consumerism. Can you say, fine, I guess you are my little pog champ, come here. I'm not the big-titted vampire from Resident Evil, but I will say it. Fine, I guess you're my little pog champ, come here. I just dropped the Rockefeller thing and oh boy is he a monster, lol. Yeah, he sure is. That was impressive. That was an impressive rhyme. I wish schools talked about the things Helen Keller had to say and not end it with her just being able to communicate. She was a politically active communist and really neat. But that's why schools don't talk about the things Helen Keller had to say. That's why they ignore it. Because they're like, oh, that's going to make them hard to brainwash. Can't tell them that. In what ways are the Canadian Greens to the left of the NDP? In what ways are the NDP to the left of the Canadian Greens? I don't really know much about the Green Party, to be honest. I would have to look at both parties' platforms. I'm sorry, I don't know. And it's shameful that I don't know, but I don't. I do like your content, but I will say I think you made some pretty obvious mistakes in the min wage video, except for the core message. If you look closer, I actually didn't make any. So, that's kind of on you. Love, from one Canadian to another. Thank you, Jess. Are bits edible to Grumbletum? Yeah, of course Grumbletum can eat bits. He can eat all of it. It's all of the analytics, he can eat them. Pride 100 trans rights. Off the top of your head, what movie should I go watch right now after this stream? Psycho Gorman. Next question. Thanks for a fun, informative, and most importantly, mature stream. Heard the Greens are pro-life? Like, in the sense of they're pro things being alive, or they're anti-abortion? I already answered the Chicken Run question. I've seen Chicken Run, and I do think it has revolutionary potential. Take a look at the Doctor's Dude reviews. Genuinely heartbreaking shit. Okay. So I'm on Stephen Malmer's Rate My MD page, or healthgrades.com. 5 stars. My experience with Dr. Marmer has been incredible. Okay. 1 star. Dr. Marmer treated our son for bipolar disorder but did very little to evaluate him and even nodded off twice during their session. Marmer prescribed a high dose of an antidepressant with very low dose mood stabilizer, which sent our son into a constant mixed state of rapid cycling. Ugh. What I learned is family and friends seeking assistance. Dr. Marmer provides 0 evaluations and allows unqualified, incompetent persons to manage his client's care. It's taken me 2 years to write this review because this experience was so devastating. My son was a PT for 8 years suffering from depression. On his last visit, he was very depressed, and doctor threw all his faults in his face, basically threw his hands in the air, and blaming my son for his problems. My son walked out. Doctor told me he would call me with suggestions for inpatient treatment. Never heard from him again. In the last 2 years, we found the meds and support. He's now working and doing well. Ugh. That's so sad. Was recommended to Dr. Marmer after I survived several surgeries at Cedars-Sinai. Tried to make an appointment. By the way, what a fucking gauntlet of a sentence that is for someone with pronunciation issues like I. After I survived several surgeries at Cedars-Sinai. Tried to make an appointment. His assistant cheerfully called within a day. With several openings this week, explained I was hopeful to work out pricing with Dr. Marver, given all the expenses I incurred as a young woman battling cancer. Same assistant cheerfully said she was sure the good doctor would take time to speak with me to work something out. I checked back twice and was told how very busy he was. Oof. But stink, Matt, don't you know? Freedom costs money, so people without money don't love freedom. Checkmate, communist. I mean, just get some money. The serfs, je suis Caleb Maupin. That's how you'd say I am Caleb Maupin in French. 9 months subscription. Gee whiz. I have the feeling that the anarchist movement had done a lot, but don't get real credit for it. Your thoughts? I mean, I agree, obviously. I'm happy to support you. You are so important in teaching in an interesting and entertaining way. Thank you, Bailiff of Iron. That's a very nice thing to say. What a nice message. Whittlebug. Ah! Goes to twitch.tv/Whittlebug. Also twitch.tv/ the Surfs TV. More importantly, Whittlebug, because she's the smallest streamer. Spilled Milk 220. Hey, this is my first ever dono. Just want to say I love your content, and I was wondering if you have any advice for getting over a fear of confrontation. I mean, the thing is, and this is an experience that I gathered from imagining a parallel dimension where I had a bad time on mushrooms. The act of being afraid of something means that it's already happened to you. Like, if you're afraid of something happening, you've imagined it happening, and it's happened to you in your head, and the fear of it is the same, right? I'm not explaining this well. Like, by fearing something, you are allowing it to happen. So if you can handle the fear of confrontation, that means you can handle the confrontation. So you might as well just have it and be done with it, rather than, letting it consume you. You might as well do it, because you're still, either way you're going to be afraid, either way you're going to be frustrated. You might as well have your say. What is the latest Pokemon generation you've played while we're on the topic? This is from last week, I think. It is. It was the first one. I've only ever played one. I'm not saying just don't be afraid. I'm saying that by being afraid, you've already experienced the worst consequence that can happen, which is that feeling. The confrontation is not going to provoke that. If it provokes that feeling, you're already feeling it. So what's the difference? You might as well, right? That's what I'm saying. If that is, like, that might be difficult to action advice, but I guess it's more of a perspective than advice. Really. I was just thinking how the ancient mature would say it. That's true. What's your opinion on debating friends and family who oppose your views? Just don't talk to them like you know more than they do. Treat them like, don't treat them like there's someone you're coming to spread the good word to. Like, don't debate them. Have a conversation. Just say like, hey, why do you think that? Here's what I think. What do you think about that? Do you think what I just said makes sense? Why not? Don't approach it from like, I'm going to fix you and your wrong politics. Would be my advice. And this is do as I say, not as I do, because I'm not always the best at that. A little picture of a guy, and he's pulling a noisemaker out of his ear. Hello, I'm here at least. Hello, Dante. Thank you for representing sad leftists who can't drive. I'm not sad! Jugmeat says indigenous rights, but will never support hashtag land back, hashtag idle no more, hashtag muskrat falls, hashtag Wet'suwet'en strong, hashtag land back lane. Then it doesn't sound like he does say indigenous rights. Or it sounds like he says indigenous rights, but doesn't really believe it. Which I think is what you're trying to say. So that makes me look not that smart. You've created such a supportive environment. Thank you for that. Do you have any advice for script writing? I'm excited to finally get some vids up. Yeah, just write it. And like, that is me saying, just do it. But the thing is, don't think about how you're going to write the script. Don't think about, oh, am I going to do it? How am I going to do it so that it's good? Sit down and do it. And if it's bad, do the next one with the lessons you learned from that one. The number one thing, the number one mistake you can make with a project like putting up a video is sitting and worrying about whether or not it's going to be good. It does not matter. Because let me be perfectly honest with you. Your first video, probably nobody's going to see it. And if they do, it will be after you've done many more videos, by which time you will have improved. It does not matter. And if your video is bad, you put up a bad video. Having a bad video up is better than not having a video up. You might as well put it up. Just make it. Just make it. Make a video. That's all you got to do. You watched Maniac Cop, but have you seen Psycho Cop? I have not seen Psycho Cop. Unless you mean regular cops. Sledgehammer is an instrument. Listen to outsider music until your brain rots. I'm responding with money because you deserve it. It's an instrument either way. Tools are instruments. The way you talk about the eyeball zone, I don't think I've ever talked about that, whatever that is. Could be used for a great Delta Green / Call of Cthulhu video game. Great work so far. Thank you. Professor Slime, did you ever go through a goth phase? If so, what kind of goth were you? It's not a phase, Dad. I'm still goth as hell, and I will not accept anyone who says otherwise. Listen, I run a YouTube channel about horror movies. I wear almost exclusively, I'm gonna say that word again. I wear almost exclusively t-shirts with horror movie characters on them. No one can tell me I'm not a goth. And to answer your question, I'm a mall goth. Because I mall grab my skateboard. I love your material and delivery. You've taught this old dog a lot. Keep up the great work. Holy smokes. Heather, thank you for the super chat. Wow. Wowzers. And you're not an old dog. Because then you wouldn't be able to type. You're presumably a human. But I don't know your age, so I cannot meaningfully say you're not old. I don't know. I feel like propagandizing is some of the most important work we've been doing right now. What places and methods would you say are best for that? I mean, obviously, I think YouTube is pretty good because that's where I do it. I would contest that it might not be the most important. The most important thing we could do. The most important thing we could do is like, you know, direct action, mutual aid. But I still think people should do propaganda, and that might be a self-serving belief because I've made it my job. But places that could use more, specifically, I would say TikTok. Then I would say like hardcore like gaming YouTube. That is a path towards radicalization to the right. I would like to see more leftists in that space. And beyond that, like literally just putting up posters in your hometown. And obviously YouTube, you know, that works too. Obviously I'm here. Could Godzilla beat Cthulhu? Of course he could. Godzilla could defeat anyone. How dare you? How dare you? Bauhaus is the mark of a true goth, let's be honest. I'm picturing Ray Smuckles' gothic dance now, where he's like, he has a skull on his penis, and he pushes the button, and it plays Bela Lugosi's Dead, which I think is a song by Bauhaus. Why are so many gamers alt-right edgelords? Because I think, like, first of all, it was, for a long time, gaming was all military shooters, like the hardcore gaming space. The only games that people really took seriously were military shooters, which have a very conservative slant. And I think there's also been a very concerted outreach towards young gamers, and as funny as that sounds to say, by the far right. Like Steve Bannon deliberately sought out gamers specifically. Like that was his thing. It's very silly, but it's true. I must say, I really enjoy pointing my eyeballs at the Solidarity Corner each week. I hope you keep up the great work. Thank you. Finally, someone talking some sense. The Solidarity Corner, the brand new, oh God, my average watch time is 13:12. Everybody continue watching the stream for the exact amount of time you've been watching it. Don't change your viewing. Oh, now it's 13:13. God damn it. Anyway, Solidarity Corner. My mouth is breaking down. I'm having some trouble with words. Solidarity Corner, this brand new experiment I've embarked upon. It's, you know, it's really paying off. I really feel like I'm finally doing something to give back to the community, help out smaller projects, something I've never done before. What am I going to do when you end within an hour? Chai within 10 minutes. Tier list your succulents. This is kind of a sore subject for me right now because I actually have sad news to report. Gordon the cactus has unfortunately passed away. And I hope you will respect my family and I's privacy in this trying time. Did you get the idea to put more eyeballs on people's work with the Solidarity Corner from the SERPs? I must have got it from somewhere. Matt, I love you. Your channel changed my views on so many things. Like, for example, before, I thought you were cool. Then I watched your videos and I realized you're a big nerd. Haha, got me. Hi, Thought Slime. I just wanted to say legalized all drugs. Hashtag say yes to the drugs. Oh no! Oh no! He tricked me into saying it. The thing that I sincerely believe, that all drugs should be legalized.
Slime. I am writing my master's thesis on transphobia ATM, which can get tough being a trans person myself and feel a lot of pressure since I want it to be meaningful and wanted to ask how you deal with the pressure of creating something impactful.
That's a good question. Honest to God, I try not to think about it. Because after a certain point, it can drive you up the wall, right? Like you can really put yourself in a bad place. I mean, obviously, I want to use my platform responsibly, and there have been times when I have not, and I've had to correct things or apologize. But I try not to think about the fact that like things like I have a certain amount of power with the words that I say. And the reason I try not to think about it is like there's a degree to which it keeps you responsible, but there's another degree that if you think about it too much, it kind of gets paralytic. And after a certain point, if you've done your due diligence, you kind of just have to trust the world with it, right? There's only so much you can do. And if you try and like control everything that can happen as a result of your work, you're just never going to do anything. I think about, and this is a very, and consider the source when I tell you this. Like, consider that the person who's giving you this advice is using this analogy. But in there's a comic called Batman Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. And in it, the people who run Arkham Asylum try to cure Two-Face by weaning him off of making choices by flipping a coin, by gradually giving him bigger and bigger number pools to draw his choices from. So he says that then you make your choices based on a deck of cards. So for each thing, there are 52 choices. And then eventually it can just be all choices, right? And so, of course, what happens then is he doesn't get better at considering more options. He just gets paralyzed by the amount of options before him, and it makes him feel worse. And that's, I think, if you spend too much time worrying about like, well, if I do this and then the next person does this, no, you can't ignore it completely, but you really can't dwell on it because you can only control the part you can control, right? And hoping that you can do only good and no bad in the world means you'll just never do anything, ever. I don't know. Maybe that, but it's possible that everything I just said is like really dangerous and shitty advice. So keep that in mind as well. Nice suit, and thanks for doing the Solidarity Corner. I'm glad you're starting to highlight leftist projects after all of this time. Me too! It feels good. If you were in the USA, would you join the SRA? Probably. Or the John Brown Gun Club. Is it okay to abort a fetus because they will have a genetic disorder? I hear leftists are generally against it, but I don't understand the argument. I don't think it's wrong to abort a fetus. I think if the reason that you're aborting a fetus is because it has a genetic disorder, then what you are essentially saying is that if someone has a genetic disorder, you would prefer that they were not born. And that's kind of like saying their life has no value, right? Like, I think there's a difference between wanting an abortion because you just don't want to have a baby, right? It's not about the particular baby that you would have. You just don't want to have it. So, okay, that's your choice. But if you say, oh, I don't want a baby that's going to be autistic, then you're essentially saying, well, an autistic person is worse than a regular person. And that's essentially, like, you're essentially calling them subhuman, right? That's why it's wrong. And the inevitable result of people applying things like that is like they end up sterilizing people against their will, and they end up like, you know, in extreme cases, it ends in literal genocide. Like the first people that the Nazis killed weren't Jewish people, weren't gay people, weren't Roma people. It was disabled people. It was the first people the Nazis came for. So that's why people would be against it, as I understand it. But I mean, I'm never going to have an abortion, so that's, you know, I have a limited perspective as well. To be frank, autism, either to be fair or to be frank, I'm not sure. Autism is not a good example because it can't be diagnosed before the person is born. Down syndrome can. I use autism as an example specifically because I've heard people make the argument that if they knew their child was autistic, then it specifically, I'll name the person. Why the fuck am I protecting this person? Unnatural Vegan, the person I made a response video to a couple of weeks ago, has made the argument that it would be moral to preemptively abort an autistic fetus. And that's why autism came to mind. But yeah. That's ridiculous. Autism isn't a disease. I know. I don't believe that. I hope that's clear. I believe autistic people are just normal people, but I'm not advocating her position. I'm not saying to you. Okay, all right. I just being clear, right? Because sometimes like, I would not want anyone who's watching this, anyone who's autistic and watching this thinking, just being even confused, like, wait, is Thought Slime saying that's okay? Like, no. So that's why I feel the need to specify, not you specifically. Yeah. Selective abortion for disability is bad, but the solution is creating a world that is easier for disabled people to live in, not restricting abortion. I think also that's just a good thing to do, even if it didn't solve that particular problem. Like, that we should just do that anyway. Long-time Slimer, first-time SRA chimer. Socialist Rifle Association chimer? You're chiming the Socialist Rifle Association? Thank you for the reply. I've got some stuff to rethink now. I mean, and I'm sorry if my reply came across as like, you monster, because I think that's something we need to, I think a lot of people logic themselves into these questions and don't really they're asking just because it's, I don't understand. Can you help me understand? And I don't want to give the impression that I'm dressing you down. That's not my intention. I'm autistic and so is my 12-year-old son. You were clear, don't worry, love what you do. I felt that I was clear, but again, it was more so it couldn't hurt to clarify either way. And also another reason that you would want to clarify is because to simply state that some people believe this awful thing, hearing that, it just feels shitty, right? It's this person believes you don't deserve to live. You hear that and you're like, oh. And so then I think to counter it, to go, but of course you do, so that at least then you get that feels better, that's, That's kind of my thinking too, right?
You have to have them now.
I think like sometimes I get like really down on people being like overly nice online. And I realize that's like really easy for me to do is like when I see someone like being really like effusively nice, I'm like, it reads to me as insincere. I'm like, why are they acting like this? That's really weird. But like, it's really easy for me to feel that way because I grew up in a safe environment where like I wasn't missing that, right? So for people that were, like that's why they do that. I don't know if I'm explaining myself pretty well. What if my child is going to be a thought slime? Is abortion okay then? No, you simply abandon them. That's what my father did. Genuinely curious, what if you abort the fetus because it will have a genetic disorder and you know you can't take care of it, like you want a child, but you know that you wouldn't be able to provide proper care? I mean, it's like, again, I think my position is that abortion is fine. Abortion specifically to on the basis of the fetus being disabled is eugenics. And you can try and concoct like some logical scenario where like a perfect sphere in a frictionless plane, you know, that's not eugenics though. It is eugenics. It is absolutely eugenics. You can concoct some scenario where that might make sense to do, but I don't think I think it's like, given the history of what has happened every time we go down this road, given that like every time people start doing this, it ends with like some of the worst war crimes in humanity's history, I think it's safe to say that like actually we have a pretty good handle on the morality of this one. Nah, I guess I disagree here. Eugenics is a plan to change humanity, whereas you're describing a harm reduction strategy which isn't perfect. But how is it not a plan to change humanity to eliminate genetic disorders through selective breeding? Like, that is what genetics is. Selective breeding in order to improve the health or the intelligence or what have you of humanity. Like, that is what eugenics is. Okay, aborting a fetus just because it will be disabled is eugenics. Yeah. Yes. And to anyone that's going to say that it's not, right? Like, it is eugenics in much the same way that if you didn't want to have a baby because it was going to be a different race than you. Like, if you were going to abort a baby because it was going to be a different race than you, that's racist, right? But abortion's not racist. But you can see how wanting to abort a baby specifically because the baby would be a different race than you, you can see how that would be racist, right? Hey, how am I supposed to figure out this gender thing? Kind of like what I do is I look at myself and I go, what's that? Like, what do I want it to be? That's how and then I go, like a boy but a girl? But who's a boy girl?
I got the money.
That's my answer. I think y'all talking past each other, but everyone's okay with a pregnant person aborting for any reason is A-okay. No, I think I've said multiple times. I don't think it's okay to abort a baby specifically because it would end up being disabled, or to abort a fetus because it would become a disabled person. I don't think that means we should restrict abortion rights. There's a difference between is something okay and should people be physically stopped from doing it. Like, hey Matt, thanks. The stream, this chat is really fucking with baseball stuff. Alright.
Americans should consider joining the SRA. It's mostly a mutual aid network.
Yes, Americans should join the SRA. I agree. Positions on legalizing ranch? I don't understand why Americans like ranch dressing so much. It's not even very good, in my opinion. Are wearing suits uncomfortable? Like, I hated having to wear suits when I was a Catholic boy. It depends. It's like anything else. It depends on the material it's made of. This is pretty comfortable. This is the only article of clothing I've ever had tailored, which is why the sleeves on it fit me perfectly, but the sleeves on this shirt do not. Why does the working class, the largest of the classes, not simply eat the rich? Because the rich have all of the guns. What supporting arguments would you use to persuade people that anyone can participate in any competition, i.e. sports, regardless of sex, gender? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. That's a misrepresentation of my position. My position isn't that all people are of commiserate skill regardless of sex or gender. My position is that trans women do not have a statistical advantage in competitive sports against men. And that is based on, like, the research. It feels like they would to people. And that's the reason that they have that guttural reaction. But if you actually look at the data, that's not the case. It's like I talked about in the minimum wage video, how people create a model and then fit the data to it. They come up with, well, here's all the reasons that we'd have all these disadvantages, or we'd have all these advantages. Sorry, trans women would have a disadvantage against men. Sorry, trans women would have no advantage over women, over cis women. Jesus Christ. There's blue cheese dressing for eating the rich. Blue cheese dressing is the food of rich people. Blue cheese is fucking disgusting. If anyone is curious, an organization called Barbell Medicine wrote a big article on sex differences in weightlifting. The data supports a lot of Dr. Slime's points. Boop. Sup, Slime? You got big chungus and I love you. Question: what is the best way to get my right-wing friends to engage with leftist thought? Again, just talk to them like I don't know. Just say like, oh, here's what I think. Why is that wrong? Like if you approach it like, hey, can you educate me on why I'm wrong? And just let them kind of logic themselves out of it, right? That I would think is a good way to approach it, right? Is like you're learning from them, but actually you're making them confront the ways that their logic makes no sense. You're doing good work. Thank you, Bill Belguni. What are INRs? I must know. Can we finally get Thoughtslime's official thoughts on spaghettification, sometimes referred to as the noodle effect?
I got the mind.
Be honest with me. Is that a sex thing? I will drink blue cheese dressing until I die. It won't take long. That's the good news. If I drank blue cheese dressing, I would want to die too. That's what happens when you go into a black hole. I remember when I was in kindergarten, for some reason, my kindergarten teacher was trying to explain black holes to my kindergarten class. And she was like, well, the thing about a black hole is it's so strong that once you're in its gravitational pull, nothing can pull itself out of it. And I was like, actually, Mrs. Fury, I think you'll find that He-Man could pull himself out of it. She was like, no, not even He-Man. I was like, what? He's the mightiest man in the universe. Hey, Dot. Hey, thought you'd be proud of yourself. You're part of the series of leftist thinkers through which I moved my mother from conservatism to leftism. Indian rupees! That makes sense. That's cool. Bringing moms to the left. Hippo character in Tactical Gear does tactical flanking maneuver hand gestures. I know that's a description of an emoji, but I prefer it as a message. What if there was a family that budgeted for a neuro/physiotypical child, but I'm learning that I'm not... Look, people were literally talking about how like this discussion was triggering for them. I'm dropping the subject. I've said my piece. I'm not going to get into the perfect sphere on a frictionless plane imagination wonderland we could get into. Aren't rupees Zelda money? It's also in India. Have I seen the new She-Ra? I watched a little bit of it. It was not for me. I'm glad it's out there. People seem to get something out of it. Didn't work for me. He-Man would be broken down so much that no information of his existence would remain in this universe. But he's the master of the universe, so he'd be fine. Is Hyrule in India? All evidence leads me to believe that yes, it is. It must be. You are cool and your videos are good. Well, that's a matter of opinion. Thoughts on having thoughts? Whoa, dude. Whoa. I'm so high. What's the most hardcore music you listen to? Nothing I listen to could even remotely be considered hardcore. Almost everything I listen to now is power metal. And I think power metal is misnamed. Power metal makes it sound like a cool thing. It should be called action figure rock. I dispute He-Man's mastery of the universe. Okay, fine. But he's the mightiest man in the universe, and I think therefore entitled to be its master. Just say power metal, it sounds hardcore. It isn't. If anyone just Googles it, they'll know. They'll know my secret. That it's action figure music. Thought Slime ML confirmed. I think He-Man being a master of the universe is a justified hierarchy. Because he defeats the forces of Skeletor. Critical support for He-Man in his struggle against Mount Serpent imperialism. Where does Skeletor live? Was it Mount Serpent?
I got the mod.
You're still live? Yeah, they'll never kill me. I saw Psycho Gorman. Thank you for the recommendation. Thank you for watching Psycho Gorman. It's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. He just hangs out with them trying to be cool. But he is among them. I'm an ML and you're my favorite anarchist YouTube channel. I'm an anarchist and you're my favorite ML commenter. Matt thinks might makes right. Confirmed. No. See, that's an easy position to take when you're not fighting off Stinkor and Beastman and other such Evelyn, etc. Snake Mountain. If and only if He-Man can time travel, he can escape the event horizon of a black hole. But what if he used his magic sword and he held it to the sky and said, by the power of Grayskull? I think then he could probably get away. Speaking of action figures, what do you think of Warhammer 40k? Come nerd out with me about that sweet, sweet plastic crack. Warhammer 40k is something I never have engaged with. So this is what I like to call wiki fiction, where I don't want to read Warhammer 40k books. I don't want to watch 40k movies, but I want to read a wiki about all this stuff in 40k. That's the thing I like to do. It's that and like Ian M. Banks's The Culture. I tried to read a couple of those books and I was just like, oh, this is boring. But I could read the wiki for it all day. Have I seen Turbo Kid? No, it's been perpetually on my to-watch list. If Skeletor makes a comeback, he needs to be voiced by Joel. No, he needs to be voiced by someone else, but they recently changed their name. So I don't know, I can't remember what their new name is. So I can't say who they should be voiced by. Or else I would be dead naming them. Not Abigail. It's... I don't know any way around this. Maybe they didn't change their name. Well, their name on Twitter is non-binary finery, and they're still at Jim Sterling. So maybe they didn't change their name? Anyway, that's who should voice Skeletor. Do I like Red Big C? I do. Sue me. Hey, just wanted to say a little Bobby Duke bit at Scaredy Cats was the first time I've laughed in a little while now. Thanks for that. Was it Scooby Duke? Did Scooby Duke get you? Jane. Is it Jane Sterling?
I got the mod.
You can still call her Jim. Jim Sterling still goes by Jim. Okay. All right. Now we know. Jim Stephanie Sterling. Nizumi says the dolls and action figures are different because they serve different purposes. She's a doll and a mousy. No, dolls and action figures are the same. It's so they can sell some to boys and some to girls, and it's a ridiculous thing because boys feel ashamed of playing with dolls. So it's fine to play with dolls. Action figures are dolls. I became a patron last month. How long does it usually take before an animation shows up in a video? Are you going to play Total War Warhammer 3? So, to answer your question, it usually takes like 2 months. This time, it will take less because I've actually been very on the ball. I finished all of December's patron drawings and a good portion of January's already. And I should have the rest of January's next week. So, by at least next week. Also, are you going to play Total War Warhammer 3? I don't know what that is. Probably not. Please know my dryness does not slow your fluids down. Is this in reference to Wet Puppets? Because it does. Wait, what? It's been 32 minutes since he said he'd end in 10. God damn it. See, last time I rated out to American Johnson, and I was like, oh, we'll do a fun bit about kaijus. Everybody talk about kaijus when you get... And they were having this really sincere discussion about, like, the ways that the left fails communities of color. And I was like, oh no. I cannot stop that which I have set in motion.
Well, I'll tell you, since you asked. New York City...
Don't rate EJ, he's wrapping up. That's fine. I wasn't gonna rate him. I don't give a shit about him. Fuck him. I don't mean that. I'll tell you what, I am gonna end though. I'm going to end my stream because people are so eager for me to end it. You're gonna go on to Camazot's altar, ladies, germs, and non-binary ferns. I'll work on it. I hope you enjoyed this stream, and I hope you dislike Prager University. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And stay safe out there in that big old world of yours.